All right, here we are, week 2 of Friday Night Drive as we see the scores rolling in and we kind of break down what we see live for the next 90 minutes. And for some of us, we go a little bit longer, deeper into the night. I'm Matt Rodewald. Good to be with you for a second straight week. Steve Soucie has got all the caffeine. He's ready to go. And, you're saving yourself because, week 7, 8, 9, those are different animals, don't you think? In week 2.
Yeah, you have to kind of break yourself into this situation, but yeah, definitely one of those situations when it gets later in the season. I'm really digging in on almost everything I'm watching. Not that I'm not doing that now, but definitely the intensity amps up the further we get into the regular season.
Let's waste no time and get right to it with what you're seeing, what you're watching right now. What has caught your attention with what's unfolded tonight?
Well, right now I'm looking at Naperville Central and Naperville North. That game's tied at 21 with a minute 27 to play. Naperville Central currently has the ball on the Naperville North 13-yard line and is facing a third down. So that one's coming right down to the wire. It's been back and forth all night long. So looks like Naperville Central might be positioning itself to potentially kick a go-ahead field goal here. Not a lot of time left in that one.
And if you're new to how this works, we're watching games, we're paying attention to it. It's kind of like your real-time red zone without actually showing the clips because you don't have the rights to do that. But what we will do is we will break down some of the games that our reporters are at all throughout the Northern Illinois area, not only just to the Chicagoland suburbs, but taking you all the way through the Illinois Valley, out towards the Quad Cities, the Sauk Valley, as well as some of the outer ring suburbs up in McHenry County. And right where I'm at here in Geneva, I had a chance to do something I've never done, Soucie. I had a chance to go to a Geneva game and a Batavia game in the same night. And I got to both before halftime, and neither were close. I walked in to watch Geneva and Lamont for a couple of minutes, and Talon Taylor, fluid, smooth. He looks as healthy as I've seen him in person in 3 years. And Lamont, a little undersized. They just simply couldn't hang with Geneva. That one just went final, 41-7. Geneva now 2-0. I walked into Batavia thinking they're in the second half, and they were basically starting the second quarter, maybe a good at the 8-minute mark left of the first half, and it was 28-0.
Yeah.
South Elgin just did not have it tonight, and it was a mixture of Batavia's defense. Their special teams is very good, running a punt back for a touchdown, and I really liked what I saw from Isaiah Brown, very specific with the way he moved. Bodie Anderson's going to be pretty good, so I watched a little bit of that when I got out of there at halftime. It was 42-0. South Elgin, hey, they wanted to schedule up. Well, they found out what happened, and that's going to be a very interesting learning curve for them to get to weeks 3 through 9. They'll be in the postseason, but what did they learn from these 2 weeks? How do you shake that out? Because you heard a lot from them in the summertime about what they were going to do and what the Storm was going to do.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I think there's some transition in that program too as well. So you're looking right now at a team that has the confidence that they can play against their conference teams, and hopefully they'll be able to bounce back and figure that out. By the way, Naperville Central successful on that field goal. 1:22 left in that contest. They currently lead Naperville North 24-21. Like I said, 1:22 to play. Naperville North starting the last drive there looks like about on the 18-yard line of their own territory.
All right, and so as that one's going down to the wire, Canelan and Wakanda, also a game we've been watching here. The Knights with a tough schedule. They're out in Maple Park right now. It's Canelan night right now with the ball, up 6, I should say. It's 13-7, final minute there. They're inside the 5, so if they can put it in, it's over. And really, right now, we're looking at a long field for Wakanda. You watched a little bit of this one tonight. What stood out with the Canelan Knights and really with Wakanda's hanging right with Canelan in this one?
It just looks like it's, from what I've watched of it, the bits and pieces, it looks like it's kind of really been a defensive struggle between these two teams, settling for a field goal here and there. Looks like they're setting up. It looks like right now there's another field goal being set up for in that game. But basically it looks like offenses haven't been able to get a lot of traction in this one.
That field goal is good, by the way. So Canelan 16-7, final 58 seconds. That one's pretty much put away, barring a miracle in that one. Bouncing around with us. Let's go through some of the finals we do have at the books real quick as we just get started here. I've got Leiden with a 14-6 win over Niles North. Lincoln Way West polishing off Andrew 41-19. Seneca with a 40-0 shutout over Lisle. Addison Trail a shutout over North Chicago tonight, 31-0. Prairie Ridge rolling up again. The running clock on Crystal Lake South. The Gators now 0-2 in foreign territory for them. That was a 49-0 win for the Wolves. Wheaton North, a 22-21 win over Lockport. Let's stop right there, Seuss, and I want you to tell me what you saw in that one tonight with Wheaton North. That's a big swing point going to the Duquesne Conference once again in non-conference play.
Well, it really seemed from what I was able to gather from that game, it felt like Lockport did the same thing that they did last year. They jumped out last week, came out really quick, gained a 14-0 lead. Wheaton North climbed back into the game and then punched in a touchdown with 2 minutes and about 20 seconds left in the contest. Went for two, got the 2-point conversion to pull that one out 22-21. So that was an impressive win for them.
And for Wheaton North, really 2 points being the difference, essentially. Just a handful of points being 2-0 so far for them to start the season. Oswego, I want to come back to this one, but a 17-0 win over Joliet Catholic tonight. Deerfield with a 21-0 win over Highland Park. Cary Grove, an easy 45-14 win over Crystal Lake Central. And again, as we mentioned, Geneva, 41-7 over Lamont. Want to show you some highlights. We're going to come back to talk to you about JCA and Oswego and how that went tonight. But first, some highlights for week 2, what we have so far.
Connor Decker is
And so that's a little bit of the flavor from what we saw around week 2. And, Steve Soucie, I saw a touchdown pass from Cary Grove in that. A touchdown pass from Cary Grove. Just want to clarify that. You don't see that very often. But what stood out from what you saw there?
You just kind of looking just across the most of the games tonight have gone pretty much the way that I thought that they would. There haven't really been a lot of games that have been, I guess, huge surprises in my mind. We'll talk a little bit. You mentioned it before. One of the ones that surprises me a little bit with Joliet Catholic and Oswego. Not that I didn't think that that wouldn't be a competitive game, but the fact that Oswego shut out Joliet Catholic tonight in impressive fashion, that definitely raised my eyebrow a little bit. But other than that, and I'm just noticing that Naperville North was sacked on 4th down, so it looks like Naperville Central is going to escape with a 24-21 win in that rivalry game. So obviously I was keeping an eye on that one as well.
Yeah, Naperville Central, I believe, going to 2-0 this week if they can hold on to that one. York and the Dukes putting it on Plainfield North in the first half. It was 35-7 at the break. It's 35-13, about 2.5 left as they run the clock out in that one. and we're seeing the scores that you have. We love that when you guys bring us the scores on the little chat. So jump into the chat. Great to see that, because sometimes, hey, we've said this before. We're going to say this a lot. There are scores we're looking for sometimes that we can't find. So we always appreciate. Mr. Soucie, how many games do you have on your screen right now that you have access to at the moment? How does this work for you? Just a little inside baseball for everybody.
Right now, I have 6 on a side screen and 1 on over the top on the right. So I'm kind of trying to keep track of 7 games at once. The annoying thing about that situation is how many of the NHFS scores don't have accurate scoreboards on them. So it's very difficult to kind of keep track of what the actual score of the game is. But the one that I'm kind of keeping a corner of my eye, it now looks like that Maine South is breaking away from Warren, that they are now up 35-12 in that game. I believe that's at the end of the third quarter based on what I'm looking at right now. But Constantine Coins has had a huge game for Maine South. He broke off a 68-yard touchdown run near the end of the third quarter. And Warren, despite running the ball so very well last week, didn't really run the ball until the second half. They got a touchdown rushing, but the run game that we were pumping up last week kind of, I guess, was de-emphasized and not utilized very much for Warren. So, like I said, Maine South up 35-12 in that one. Definitely a game I was keeping my eye on. So, just kind of trying to keep track of there. And it looks like Neuqua Valley has just scored on Manuka. And if that kick is good, they will be taking a 14-13 lead with 2:10 to play in that one.
Some of the others that you're seeing on the screen, West Aurora, keep an eye on that one. It's a big swing game in the Upstate 8 with West Aurora, they 28-20 lead, according to Matt. Thank you for that. That's midway through the third quarter. What do you make of how this one shakes out? In terms of just trying to read that conference right here, South Elgin getting it handed to them tonight. So in terms of just how the division split up, it's a little bit different than in years past. But can West Aurora, can Glenbard East, can these teams not only get to the playoffs, but can they actually win a game, get some depth in the postseason and maybe a bit of a run?
It's interesting. You look at where West Aurora is right now, coming over to that conference and kind of rekindling some of those rivalries that they had before they were in the Southwest Prairie. But right now, at least eyeballing them after 2 games, I think they might be the best team in that conference. Regardless of division, I'm not completely in memorization of who was on what side, but I think, basically just looking at it through after 2 games, granted the first game was against a weaker opponent, but this is a solid effort from them in week 2. And I think they might actually be the best team in that league.
I want to switch up to the Fox Valley because we've been watching this one a little bit too. Dundee Crown has trailed Central Rockets out of Burlington most of this one. They just took the lead in the final minute, scoring a touchdown and going for 2 to get to 22-21 lead. Central got the kickoff inside DC territory, so they're at the 46-yard line, a decent kicker on the Rockets squad. So maybe about, I would say probably, again, with high school, you probably want to get within the 15-yard line just to be sure of that one. So we're going to watch that as we go here. But as some of the other finals that come in, we noticed Dixon, a big winner in that one. Tonight, we're seeing Niles Notre Dame, a 17-0 shutout win over Sterling. That's one that is kind of a surprise in terms of not getting points on the board for the Sterling Golden Warriors this evening.
Yeah, I was kind of keeping an eye on that one as well. I mean, there's a couple of games tonight where Catholic League teams are traveling over to play Western Big Six teams. And we talked about this a little bit last week, especially when you're in the Catholic League. You've got to make some hay in the non-conference schedule. And so that's a nice win for Niles Notre Dame. They're in a tough division in the Catholic League. They need to put themselves in the best possible position if they want to make a run at the playoffs. So getting that win tonight is pretty pivotal for them. It's going to be one that I think we're going to look back at in week 6 or week 7 if Niles Notre Dame is one of those bubble teams and say how important that was.
Byron, a 49-18 win over Rockford Lutheran. More surprising that Byron didn't score 60 points or that Rockford Lutheran put 18 on the board.
That's an interesting debate. There's no doubt about that. But no, definitely that team. I expect big things from that Byron team offensively all year long, and they're just kind of picking up where they left off. a lot of guys back from that group that set the state record for points in a season last year. So I fully expect that to be kind of a regular occurrence with especially Byron regular season games.
It's about to go final in West Chicago, Wheaton Academy and St. Charles East. It's the Warriors that are about to get the 28-17 win, and maybe a second left there as St. Charles East trying to go for a last-second touchdown. Doesn't look like they're going to get it. They may wave it off here. You know what? What else? I mean, let's talk about Joliet Catholic and Oswego for a second as we wait to see more scores that come in here, of course, as we're starting to see those finals really come in here. Joliet Catholic, you expected them to be good, but Oswego, that defense is holding them to 70-some-odd yards in the first half. Is there such a thing as a statement game in that scenario, knowing that this is kind of the game that neither team wanted to play coming in week 2?
Yeah, I mean, I think when I was looking back to when I found out that this game was going to be played, I knew that Oswego was going to be pretty good this year. I mean, I picked them to win their conference, and that's a pretty deep conference. But I thought that maybe that was biting off a little bit more than they could chew. But they really proved me wrong on that stance, because that defense is really, really good. I mean, we've now gone back-to-back shutouts, and Joliet Catholic last week did pretty much whatever they wanted to do against an Iowa City team that isn't bad. I mean, it's not one of the best teams in Iowa, but consistently a winning type of program that comes over there. And Joliet Catholic pretty much did whatever they wanted offensively and defensively in that game. So you thought they were in a pretty good place heading into that game with Oswego. They just couldn't get anything going tonight. I mean, they attempted several fourth down plays that they didn't convert. I don't think they converted on any of them. It was completely controlled by Oswego's defense tonight. And if they can beat a team like Joliet Catholic and keep them to that, the rest of the opponents on the Oswego schedule have to be very concerned, to be completely honest with you, that they're going to have much success either. So, I mean, I would agree with you. That's about as close as a statement win as you can get.
Getting the final in Morris, a 31-17 win over Joliet West. One of those teams on Oswego's schedule is Yorkville, and they have struggled to put points on the board this season. They're up in Northridge right now, or Northridge, I should say, taking on New Trier. It's the second game of the home and home in their contract, and they were facing shutout territory. They finally got on the board there. It's 24-8 as they head to the fourth quarter right now. So it's going to be a long bus ride back from the northern suburbs. Yorkville really can't put points on the board. Then you see what Oswego's doing with their defense. And, you know, that rivalry is going to be very interesting to take a turn here, quite possibly, as you look at it on paper.
Yeah, that's definitely something you have to look at. And on top of it, like now you're looking at other teams in that conference. Granted, they don't get into their divisional play until week 5, but a lot of the teams in that conference are having trouble putting up points. I mean, Yorkville is having trouble putting up points. Plainfield North is having trouble putting up points. I haven't seen a score on it yet, but I think Bolingbrook is having trouble putting up points. So they might be just running into a buzzsaw with Oswego's defense playing as well as it is, with a team that maybe is not putting up as many points as they would like. So definitely something to look forward to later on in this season. So, and now we're updating on another team in that conference, Manuka. They now face a 3rd and 22 with 57 seconds left, trailing Neuqua Valley 14-13. So Manuka was trying to get to 2-0 here, which would have been a big deal for them, but Neuqua Valley seems to have that one in pretty good stead right now.
We're seeing that Richmond Burton loss. I'm not really sure if we have the final exactly, but if you do, that's definitely a surprise either way.
Yeah, I saw it. It was actually quite comfortable. I don't remember exactly what the final was, but Quincy Notre Dame, I believe, won by at least 3 touchdowns in this game. So definitely an impact non-conference win for Quincy Notre Dame. Richmond Burton, like the commenter mentioned, doesn't lose that often. Actually, now we're seeing a final 22-10, actually, so I didn't have the right number on that. Quincy Notre Dame with the win. That's a big deal on a lot of specters. I think Richmond Burton will probably be okay in the long run. I think they're still probably the favorite in the Kishwaukee River. But Quincy Notre Dame joined the Big 12 this year. So not the Big 12, I'm sorry, the Central State 8.
Right.
And that's That's kind of a leap in terms of the actual size of that school and the level of competition that they're going to be playing over the course of the regular season. So that's a big win for Quincy Notre Dame in the grand scheme of things, because they're going to be playing a laundry list of 5A, 6A schools and some really good ones in there too. So getting themselves a win in that situation, a big deal for the Raiders, just in the grand scheme of putting themselves in a position to potentially qualify for the playoffs.
Say wild one going in the Fox Valley right now. The Central Rockets, 9 seconds left. They've gotten to the 20-yard line, down by 1. So they will set themselves up for a field goal. I believe they've taken their last time out, or did they move the chains here? 9 seconds, they'd have to get to the line to spike it to save it. But I think they used their last time out to set up for the field goal. And that would be about, I want to say, 37 yards. This would be for the win. This is a big swing game right now for these two teams to try and figure out, are they going to be 4-5, 5-4, potentially 3-6 if it goes sideways on both of these teams here. And they're going to set this up right now as I watch at the 27-yard line. So that would be a 37-yard field goal here. Again, this is a closed conference, and so it doesn't really change the playoff points by any means. But you want to at least get to 4-5, and 4 wins are tough to come by when you have Cary Grove. Huntley rolled tonight. Prairie Ridge doesn't want to keep the clock stopped for anybody. And, you know, a team like Jacobs that's sort of in the mix. And I know they had Hampshire tonight. I haven't seen a score in that. That was actually a little tighter than it should have been for a little while. So if you can get that, or if you stumble across that, we'll have that for you. So they're now going into a timeout here as both teams get ice time as they go back and forth. So we'll keep an eye on that. York went final 35-13 over Plainfield North. Guilford a winner over Belvedere at home tonight, 21-17. And Canelan, that did go final 16-7. So the Canelan Knights now 2-0 as they head into conference play in a little bit, but they have DeKalb coming up. DeKalb right now leading Plainfield South. They just converted a 3rd and 9. It's a 14-7 score. They're about under 5 minutes, so that is a big possession there. Unless I missed it. No, I'm going the other way. So Plainfield South has the ball, trying to go for the tying score here. Again, they are under 5 minutes in that one. All right, we're watching the Central Rockets again setting up out of that timeout, and as you see, Johnson City, that score coming in over Edwards County. So Johnson City gets a win. 27-yard line, 9 seconds. The snap, the kick, it's on its way, and it is good. A good kick for Central and the Rockets with 5 seconds left, and it's a 24-22 lead for Central. So, you know, that 27-3 loss to Cary Grove, who didn't have Logan Abrams, back tonight, by the way, played okay, I guess, against a tough team to prepare for, turning around, by possibly getting a win, going to 1-1. And then they get, you know, Crystal Lake South, who struggled at home in the next couple of weeks here. So this turning into a potentially favorable schedule for the Rockets here. What else is jumping out at you right now as I'm just kind of resetting here as we get closer to the top of the hour?
I'm trying to monitor this Marist Brother Rice game that has gotten kind of wild and crazy. Brother Rice took the lead with 1:44 left in the game on Tyler Lofton's 3rd touchdown run. And Marist comes right back and scores with 45 seconds left in the game on a touchdown pass. So that game goes into overtime at 27-27. So as far as I know right now, they're lining up for the overtime period between Brother Rice and Marist. I don't have a feed on that, so I'm trying to track it whatever way that I can find it. So basically, but that's the one that I'm looking at right now. That Neuqua Valley Manuka game, now we're getting a little bit interesting. Manuka has moved the ball inside the Neuqua Valley 20-yard line with 31 seconds left, trailing Neuqua 14-13. So that's another one that I'm keeping a close eye on right now.
Okay, so we're watching Manuka and Neuqua Valley.
Final 16-7, by the way.
Yes, 16-7. We do have that one. So again, the Knights are 2-0. You're watching Marist and Brother Rice. That's in overtime right now. Manuka and Neuqua Valley going down to the wire in that one. Just wanted to make sure that up in Carpentersville, nothing crazy happens on this kick with 5 seconds left, which I've seen weird things. So as the Central Rockets kick off here to try and get this thing done. How about Rochelle? A 36-8 win over Morton tonight. That was a road trip for them. They go down south, and again, it's now final. The Central Rockets do win by a score of 24-22. And they go to 1-1 on the year. what are you watching with those two games that we mentioned before we get to Rochelle? What's catching your eye?
It looks like Manuka is taking a timeout. They are sitting with a 4th and 1 at the Nequa 11-yard line. So, but there's only, according to the clock, there's only 4 seconds left. So, I'm not sure what Manuka's kicking situation is, to be completely honest. So, don't know on that one. I still have not seen any update on what happened in the overtime in the Brother Rice Marist games. It's still showing just OT in this one. So
we're watching all this happen. And again, thank you for the scores that are coming in. Jacob's the winner tonight, 28-21. Again, that one tight, but it went the way it probably expected. Hampshire, that's a good recovery. They had overtime last week with McHenry, and then they lose by a touchdown to Jacobs. So you think some things in Hampshire are starting to turn a little bit. You think we'll keep an eye on them in the next couple of weeks to see if they can get a couple of wins there as they make an attempt at the postseason there. Let's see. Just trying to get reset here and scores that have come in. Waubonsie Valley 50-0 final over Plainfield East. We mentioned Wheaton Academy 28-17 over St. Charles East. I wanted to call that one a toss-up at the start, but really the Duquesne, that's a playoff point they could have had, but instead that goes by way of Wheaton Academy and company and Naperville Central, as we've mentioned just a couple minutes ago, 24-21, a final. That rivalry at North Central used to be a real fun event, and it still is, but it's strange to see it in week 2 just because of the new conference. What do you make of that? I'm glad they got a way to figure out how to play each other.
Well, yeah, that was very strange because it was one of the situations that kind of created kind of a schedule mishmash, because originally, back before this conference was aligned, Loyola was scheduled to play Naperville North this week. But this was the only way that Naperville North and Naperville Central could play. So they basically dropped out of that game with Loyola simply so the rivalry could continue. It wasn't exactly the greatest thing and Manuka has just kicked the game-winning field goal. They're going to win that game 16-14. It appears that the field goal was from about 27 yards out. So it looks 16-14, your final on that one.
So in the last couple of seconds, we've had 2 game winners on field goals, and very impressive. We're seeing some clutch field goal opportunities. You didn't think you'd see that in week 2, but here we are. And we have overtime going on still, I believe, Marist and Brother Rice. Where is that game? Is that at Marist? Or is that at Brother Rice?
That is at Rice.
Okay, yes. It is at Rice. I thought I saw that in the highlights. I just wanted to make sure before I got that wrong. But all right, so we have a good handful of finals in the books here, and we're going to keep an eye on these things here as we go. We're starting to see, Monmouth Rossville 60-26 over Orion, and let's see here. We've got Waweco Central A&M over Fieldcrest 42-14 as things have gotten tough for the folks down at Fieldcrest. Stark County a 14-13 win over Anawan, that one final. So thanks for all the scores as you guys bring them in. Keep an eye on West Aurora and Glenbard East as well. We're watching Marist and Brother Rice go into stay in overtime here.
Successful touchdown for Marist, first possession of the overtime.
First possession, so Marist will have that.
34-27, Brother Rice ball.
Okay, so as we get a recap here, let's see if we can take a quick break and then get ourselves set to go to kind of see what happened with Marist and Brother Rice on the other side. This is week 2, Friday Night Drive here. Stay with us.
Hey, football fans, listen up. I'm top there, and I drive a Hawk. I got it from my friends at Hawk Volkswagen. So drive what I drive. Drive a Hawk. Hawk Volkswagen on Jefferson Street in Joliet or online at hawkvw.com.
Do you ever wonder where the profits go when you shop at a big box store? Hi, this is Patty from Oliver's Corner Market. When you shop at Oliver's, you can rest assured that the profits stay local, supporting other local businesses and charities. Find us at the corner of Britton and Bradshaw in Dixon.
I like Reich.
I like Reich.
Since 2016, it's been my privilege to represent the people of the 63rd District. I want to continue representing you as an independent voice in Springfield.
I like Reich. We like Reich.
We're here to help you with your problems that result from an automobile accident or an injury on the job or the loss of a loved one. There's no reason you should go through this alone and guess that you're doing things right.
We deal with tragedies that affect families and individuals every day.
Come here and protect your interest. We've been doing this collectively for over 100 years. Let's put that experience to work for you.
All right, welcome back. We are starting our second half an hour, so to speak, in our Friday night drive stream. Week 2 as we're watching overtime, Marist and Brother Rice, overtime for the Pulaski Super Bowl. What do you think the environment is like down there in the South Side right now?
Absolutely bonkers would be my guess.
Yep. Watching Brother Rice right now. They're at the 2-yard line trying to tie things up on 3rd down and overtime. And it looks like they are right stuffed at the goal line. Guess what? This is coming down to a 4th and goal in overtime to try and extend it and keep it going. So you're watching that. Lena Winslow, a 44-13 win over Fulton, as we see here. West Aurora looks like they're going to put away Glenbard East. And we've had some exciting finishes here in these last couple of minutes. Also, Mantino, a winner over Plano tonight. That one just coming in at 27-6. What else jumped out? So we talked about Oswego, the shutout win. Aside from that, and what we're watching right now is they go to a timeout. So we'll keep an eye on Marist and Brother Rice in just a second. They go to a timeout. What else kind of catches your eye as we look around the state?
Well, Morris closed out a 31-17 win over Joliet West, but that game was a little bit closer than that. It took a little while for Morris to break away in that one. Morris got out early, but Joliet West bounced back. At one point, it was tied at 17 in that game. So I think that even in a loss, that's a good sign for Joliet West. They wanted to be at the very least competitive in that game. That was their only regular season loss last year and kind of a breakout year for them. I'm sure they would have loved to have come out with a W in that one, but they definitely were more competitive in this year's version of it than they were last year. So that's interesting. Another score that kind of jumped out at me that I saw, Libertyville with a 48-15 win over Richards tonight. I think that Libertyville team is pretty good.
I think so too.
Yeah, I think they're sternly flying under the radar, but I've been impressed with what I've seen out of them so far.
Yeah, just watching Lamont tonight go against Geneva and just doing the transitive property stuff. I that's a 43-0 win from last week. Geneva did not do that tonight. They struggled to get going, a couple turnovers too, but I thought that it seemed that Libertyville had some talent if you're just doing that. So. Yes, Libertyville is going to be someone to keep an eye on over the next couple of weeks. And that's interesting for that conference because we're watching what's going on with Lake Zurich, Lake Forest, and Libertyville. Stevenson, quiet at this point. We're watching Montini, a 21-0 win over Hillcrest. That just coming across as well. So, and let's see what else how about Edwardsville going down tonight? You had talked about Edwardsville being a team that could really cause some problems in the Metro East. Hard read when you go over to Indiana sometimes with Lawrence Central.
That's a Lawrence Central program that traditionally is pretty good. I'm not going to make an excuse for them.
Nope.
I mean, I thought they would. I honestly thought they might be able to go over there and win that game. They weren't real exceptionally competitive in that one, which kind of surprised me a little bit. But Lawrence Central is no slouch in Indiana football. So that's while it's a loss, it's not necessarily a bad loss. Another out-of-state loss that I think is worthy of mentioning, Rochester played Cardinal Ritter this evening out of Missouri, one of Missouri's typically strongest teams. Rochester pinned with a regular season loss tonight. They lost that game 28-10. So definitely one of those situations where
it is a final at Brother Rice. They had to go for it on 4th and 1. They did not get in. Marist holds on, stuffed at the goal line, and so the Marist celebration. Students storming the field in this madhouse, and they're trying to keep them not apart, but it's one of those go that way. You never know how 17-year-olds are going to react in a situation like that. But Marist, a winner over Brother Rice right now. That just went final seconds ago, 34-27 in that one. So very impressive overtime win for Marist. Your thoughts on now how that's gone final?
That's one of those games that gets played because it needs to be played. They're no longer in the same division in the Catholic League, so they don't play a conference game. So they have to schedule it up. I mean, because all their games in the Catholic League are formulaic. You can't request opponents if you're for crossover games. There's a formula that they use to decide who gets the crossover games and everything. So if you don't get a team that you regularly play, your only choice is to play them in week 1 or 2. So that's what they're doing here. And that's the kind of game right now that looks really pivotal for both of those programs.
They're still setting up the handshake line. Let's see how this goes here. And again, what we're talking about, Marist, a 34-27 overtime winner over Brother Rice. Let's see if we can just get some recaps going while we get ourselves organized first. And I want to check in with what's happening in Sycamore. Eddie Carifio was at that one, Sycamore and Oswego East. I have no idea what happened in this game tonight. Let's find out from Eddie.
Quick update here from Sycamore. The game is over, 15-9. Sycamore holds on for a thrilling win, once again trailing in the fourth quarter. I guess they're a fourth quarter team this year. They had a chance to kick a field goal. They were down 9-7. The field goal snap was bad. Thatcher Friedrichs, the kicker, didn't phase him at all. Chases it down, stays on his feet, finds Caden Ralph, a sophomore running back and linebacker, for a 27-yard gain down to the 1. They punch it in with Lee on the next play. That gives them the lead. They had a chance to score late in a 13-9 game. They could not get the ball in the end zone. The Oswego defense, like they had all game, just held them, clamped down. A tremendous performance by the Wolves defensively. Stopped a reverse by Josiah Mitchell on 4th down, but the first play of the next drive was a bad snap out of the end zone. There's your victory, 15-9. Peace out from Sycamore.
Sycamore 2-0. Your thoughts?
Yeah, that's showing how they've 2 weeks in a row now. They've kind of closed out an opponent in the fourth quarter, and that's a great sign for them moving forward because good opponents both of those first 2 weeks, even though obviously the records aren't showing that right at this point in time. Another final that I just saw pop in, Mount Carmel gets back on the win side of the ledger, 28-0 over St. Rita tonight.
Yeah, not really a surprise. 28-0 for the Caravan. They go to 1-1. And, of course, Loyola and Glenbard West, that's tomorrow. And so we'll keep an eye on that one as we head in towards next week. Can we show the Marist clip? Are we ready for it? I'm not sure if we are. I'm kind of asking out loud. Marist with the 4th and goal stuff of Brother Rice. As they got to the 1-yard line, I'm watching a feed where they tell us whether or not we actually can play these sorts of things. If we can't do that yet, we will get it to you as best we can. And make sure you follow our guys on Twitter, all of our reporters that are out there. Let's see, where do we want to bounce around to real quick? I want to check in with what's going on with York and Plainfield South, if we could here. Josh Welge was there, and he watched York and Plainfield, I believe Plainfield North, I should say, as a DeKalb and Plainfield South go to the wire. We'll get to that in a second. First, Josh and his recap from the York Dudes.
Half. Bruno Massell, their senior quarterback, he threw 2 touchdown passes. He ran for a third. Henry Duda, he ran for nearly 170 yards and 2 touchdowns, including an 80-yarder. So York improves to 2-0 on the season. On the other side, Plainfield North, Omar Coleman caught a 50-yard touchdown pass in the first half, but Plainfield North drops to 0-2. This is actually the second consecutive year the Plainfield North has started the season 0-2. They will hope that they can, kind of finish and rebound. Last year they started 0-2. They ended up going 4-5, but they did make the playoffs at 4-5. So again, final from Plainfield North, York 35, Plainfield North 13. This is Josh Welge from Friday Night Drive.
All right, thank you to Josh for that. And I tell you what, York's kind of one of those teams, York and Lions, every year, as good as they are, you just don't talk about it. There's not a team that just screams, hey, talk about me. Why is that, you think?
They are just – I think what typifies what they've been able to do over the last couple of years in that program is they just play good, solid football. It's not a lot of fireworks. It's just that they do what they have to do to beat the opponents that they have to do, and they don't care if the score is 21-14 or 42-0. It doesn't matter as long as it's a W. And sometimes that doesn't draw a lot of headlines. But what they have been really, really good about, especially over the last couple of years and now moving into this year, is stacking wins. And in their conference, that's something that's really hard to do.
One of the scores that just crossed the feed there, Camp Point Central went down tonight. Calhoun got them 14-13. Yeah, so they did. So that's notable in 1A because that shakes up a little bit in terms of seeding immediately, because a lot of people have penciled in, as they should, a Central team that's just 9-0 no matter what. But for them, that changes things a little bit, so keep an eye on that. I want to show you the end. Marist, Brother Rice. Marist trying to hold on. Brother Rice trying to punch it in on 4th and goal. Here's how it ended. Tried to stuff it in off to the right there, and coming out of a timeout. Both teams were ready to go, but the Red Hawks a little more ready to get after it on the run.
Yeah, it's a big win for Marist. I mean, it's one of those situations where, Marist coming off the win over Morgan Park last week, now sitting there at 2-0, head into conference play exactly where they want to be, and with 2 feathers in their cap, because those are both solid wins. Those are both teams that I expect to make the playoffs, especially in Morgan Park's case. I expect them to be a good point generator for Marist. So to be 2-0 with those 2 teams behind them, that puts them in great shape moving forward.
Yeah, go ahead and add in at least a home game in week 1 of the postseason at that point, if you're going to start at 2-0 with that kind of schedule in mind. As we go up and down to see where some of the good teams that we have reporters at here, let's see if we can check in with Bill, who is at Seneca. Seneca, a 40-0 winner. I want to ask you about Seneca and their long-term trip here down the seasonal path. Let's check in with Seneca real quick.
All right, folks, we are final from Seneca. 40-0, the Fighting Irish over the Lisle Lions tonight. The story of this one is in the scoreboard. The Fighting Irish had over 10 running backs carry the ball today. Making the most of his carries was senior running back Brody Rodmacher, who had 182 yards and 3 touchdowns on the ground. So, yeah, just a beat down. They had the clock running in the second half, and on to the next one for Lisle. So Seneca's going to be at Marquette next week. Lisle will be hosting Wilmington. Have a good night.
And that's not exactly a gift for Wilmington, for Lisle to have Seneca and Wilmington back to back. What do you make of Seneca as their start this season after what they've done the last couple of years?
That Seneca team has really established themselves as the reporter mentioned there. 10 different guys carrying the ball. They've done this a lot. They did it a lot last year, where they'd have 3, 4, 5 guys rushing for 75, 80 yards each. It was almost like it was an interchangeable part machine on offense for them. And it looks like they're trying to rekindle that with some different names, because a lot of those guys graduated last year. But still, it looks like Seneca is going to be an absolute nightmare for opposing defenses to stop at the 2A, 3A level. They were really, really effective last year. The only reason that they didn't go deeper in the playoffs is they ran into the buzzsaw that you mentioned before, Wilmington. They beat Wilmington in the regular season last year, which was a huge win for them, but Wilmington got them back in the playoffs. And Wilmington ended up obviously advancing and winning the 2A state championship. So Seneca has established itself as a really strong program over the last couple of years and have established the blueprint that works for them. And they're really, really using that to their advantage.
Last week, we had a couple of weather delays downstate that had some games going towards midnight. Not having that tonight, but we do have some games still going, and we're watching at Plainfield South. They are tied at 14, DeKalb and Plainfield South. The Cougars punching it in the end zone with about 2 minutes left here, and so they're at 56 seconds left, and it's Plainfield South with the ball. They are at the DeKalb 29-yard line facing a 2nd and 9, so we're going to watch this one to get down there. Again, these are big swing points right now when you're looking at conferences. You know who needs this win right now? Yorkville needs this win more than anything from Plainfield South, looking at their schedule and where things could go for them, especially with how things have gone. With Oswego getting their 2-0 start, they want Plainfield South to get that win to add that extra playoff point to make sure that they have the highest seed they possibly could get in the postseason.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to. We've talked about this a lot too. With conferences like the Southwest Prairie, those teams are going to be in a situation, I think, at the end of the season where 2 or 3 of them are going to be those bubble teams, the teams that we're talking about that needing to get to that 5th win. If they don't get to that 5th win, how many points do they have? Where do those points come from? So anytime you can get contributions from your non-conference opponents or even in your in-league conference opponents in these 2 weeks or the next couple of weeks, that's going to be extremely valuable for those teams come week 8, come week 9 when you're having those discussions.
Plainfield South, though, in trouble, facing a long 3rd and 12 from their own 32-yard line. We mentioned Oswego East. Let's talk about Oswego East. Actually, let's listen. Carson Cooney, the Iowa-bound defensive stud and the son of the head coach, a chance to talk with our guys tonight.
Here with Carson Cooney after Oswego's 17-0 shutout victory over JC. I mean, 2 weeks in a row, the defense throws up the 0, and you are the quarterback of all of that.
I mean, we work hard for it. We worked hard for it all offseason. We saw it coming. I mean, our team puts in the work. We're like a family. It's not like anything I've ever seen before. And, we're just going to keep working, and we're not done yet, for sure.
You said you're not done yet. Obviously, this was the big test on the schedule. 100%. Tell me about the week of practice this week. You knew JCA was going to run the football. You knew their wing tee offense, so you guys held them to about 150 yards on the ground after 330 yards a week ago. How does that feel?
It's amazing. I mean, Monday we came up fired up. Coach was talking about it. We came up Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We were fired up. He hasn't seen anything like it. But, yeah, we're just going to keep rolling from here. And that was a great test. Everyone was talking, why JCA? Like, of course they're good. They're ranked. I mean, but it doesn't matter to us.
You said it doesn't matter to you. Obviously, you showed it on the scoreboard tonight. Going forward, how do you keep this momentum going? How does this defensive unit continue to throw up 0 after 0, continue to throw up low score after such a historic year last year that you were such a big part of?
We're not going to be cocky. We're going to be smart football players. We don't have as many injuries as we did last year, so it's helping us out for sure a lot. And so, just keep working.
Tell me about the feeling on the sideline when Villa pops off a 64-yard run for a touchdown. I mean, at what point in your head are you going, all right, we can do this. From here we go.
I mean, that first drive when we were running down the ball down the field, I was like, oh, my, we got this. Like, we have this. And the first drive when I was out there on defense, I mean, it's something we haven't seen before. Yeah.
Where does that JCA offensive line and their running backs rank in terms of just height, weight, speed that you played against here at Oswego?
They're definitely the biggest we've seen. I mean, Warren last year was pretty big.
Yeah.
We've seen them first round of the playoffs. But, yeah, they were big. Just had to beat them with speed. And, yeah, got the job done.
Congratulations. 17-0 Oswego wins over JC.
You can tell he's going to be a Division I athlete, just well-spoken and very calm and comfortable in that conversation for sure.
Well, I was recognizing he said something in that interview that he also said last week. He said, we saw that coming. I wonder what else he sees coming, because if they've seen both of these things coming, I'd be interested to see what else the fortune teller Carson Cooney has to teach us.
So we've had 2 field goals for game winners within the last couple of seconds. We're about to have a third chance at it. Plainfield South has actually picked up that first down on 3rd and 12 and a draw, and now they're going to set themselves up with 2 seconds left. So this is it, and now we have a timeout. And Plainfield South called a timeout on their own kicker, and they were setting up for a 40-yard field goal. So this is not a chip shot by any means. It's a second down for what it is, but with 2 seconds left, this is your shot at it. Eventually, we're going to get a chance.
In week 1, Plainfield South won 3-0, and the only scoring they got was from that kicker. So
from that kicker, they got it late in the first half. Yep.
Just kind of showed up apparently and said, I'd like to try this. So obviously, they're putting a lot on his shoulders here early on, but we'll see what happens.
There are a lot of coaches paying attention to this. We mentioned Oswego. Also, this impacts Canelan. 2-0, and they need DeKalb to win this one to add to that win total, to add to their playoff points because of how tough their schedule is. I imagine that Canelan finds a way to at least get 4 wins out of this, but this is a matter of seeding, and where they are is that 5A, 6A bubble where they could fall. It really changes how things can go for them in the postseason. So here we are. This is setting up a 42-yard field goal, and here we go. It is in the air, waiting for the signal, and it is good. Plainfield South wins it. So we've seen game winners 3 for 3 tonight. and they run to the other end of the field and celebrate Plainfield in the all navy blues. A big win tonight, and their kicker has come up absolutely monstrous for them.
Night of the kicker, apparently.
Man, we are seeing that. So 17-14 the final now, and Plainfield South goes to 2-0. And how big is that 2-0 mark for them on their schedule, looking at who they have coming up next week? Oswego, by the way, is Plainfield Central. Plainfield South, because of the divisions, I have to kind of switch the divisions to see. But they get Plainfield North next week. That's their home opener, what we saw tonight with DeKalb, the second of a home and home. I believe that's the third year between DeKalb and Plainfield South. I'm glad they've actually continued that series. So they will get Plainfield South before going on the road to Oswego East and Romeoville. So a chance for Plainfield South to stack some wins together. 2-7 last year. They already got to 2-0.
Yeah. Another one of those teams that we were talking about a little bit about last week, snapping a long losing streak. Harvard won again tonight. They beat Reed Custer 21-14. So now they're out at 2-0 after snapping that long losing streak. And then another interesting final that I just saw come in, DePaul Prep is out 2-0 now after a 35-7 win over Marion Central Catholic. So some teams stepping up that we're not used to hearing a lot from. So very interesting to start the season.
Maine South, a 35-18 final over Warren. So Warren puts up 18 points after last week.
Yeah. And, it like I said before, it looks like Maine South didn't take too much, malice out of that Lincoln Way East. They got right back on the horse and focused on the fact that they're still a pretty good football team. I haven't seen the final stats, but it looks like Constantine Coins broke off 2 long touchdown runs, as well as was pretty productive moving the ball through the air as well. So a really good bounce back for Maine South right there. I felt like they were a top 10 team regardless of like what had happened in week 1. This win obviously vindicates that position.
Big night tonight for Isaiah Brown. 5 catches, 2 of them in the end zone. Batavia, a big win over South Elgin, and Joel Benetz was there, and he had a chance to talk with Isaiah Brown, the senior, for the Bulldogs.
All right, here was Zay Brown. Finished the day with 5 receptions, 110 yards, 2 touchdowns. Your second 100-yard receiving day for Batavia. I mean, what was the feeling having this first big game in front of the home crowd?
It felt great, honestly. Just coming out here doing what, I'm made to do. Just coming out here doing my routes, running my routes, going through the plays, giving effort every play, working hard. So it just all fell where it was supposed to. We had a hard week at practice, so knowing that, just coming out here, translating it to the game field, it just felt great, amazing.
Yeah, talk about that first touchdown you had. I mean, 57 yards. It was Bodie Anderson's first touchdown at starting quarterback, and you were pretty much wide open there. Talk about that play and getting that touchdown.
Yeah, that was a little double move action. DB wasn't giving me nothing inside, so I just said, you know what, let me just take an outside release, did a little post corner. Bodie got it to me. I had to do a nice little track in there, but I found it. Carter, you know how to take it home. Do a little at the end there.
After last week where, majority of the offense ran through Nathan Whitwell, how did it feel to get implemented fully into the offense and have such a big game in front of the home crowd?
It felt great. But even like last week, I wasn't even complaining because, we got guys on the team that's going to make all sorts of plays. Like you said, Nathan Whitwell, if we got to give it to him 30, 40 times a game, we will. If we got to pass it 20, 30 times a game, we will. So anything today, it just made me happy. But like I said, I'm here to play for my team, and whatever we got to do, we're going to do.
Hey, you guys survived non-conference play.
Yes, sir.
Going 2-0, heading into conference play next week. What's going to be the expectations for you guys?
Just effort and just keep going, just working harder every day. We try to implement, just putting more effort, getting stronger, getting tougher every week by week, leading up into practice. And by this week, upcoming week, we ready to really perform and just do what we got to do at practice, come out here and give some conference some, what they've been waiting for.
All right.
Isaiah Brown tonight, and I saw his other touchdown in person, so he was talking about how he wasn't giving him the inside. It was the same setup, same DB, but actually shaded to the outside a little bit, and it was about a 12-yard slant, where it was a quick double hitch and then went inside. It's really hard to stop off the line, and that's what makes Isaiah Brown so tough. We have the game-winning field goal from Plainfield South coming up momentarily. Rob Esterly was there, and we're going to get that in just a second. But what do you make of the Bulldogs? Last week it was the run. This week they've been able to do just all sorts of things against South Elgin team This is a stretch where they're going to play 4 of 5 games at home, the first of 3 in a row. That stretch of 4 and 5 ends with Geneva in the first week of October.
Yeah, it was very interesting to see Isaiah Brown have the breakout that he did kind of tonight, showing off what he could do, because, I mean, I didn't see much of him last week. I was at that entire week 1 game because it was so focused on the running game, and there were so many, situations where it was like they chose to run the ball. They were being effective running the ball. They really didn't put it in the air and look to stretch the field against Glenbard West. So I didn't really get to see what Isaiah Brown had to offer tonight. Obviously, we're able to kind of utilize his skills a little bit more in the offensive game plan. So it's a dangerous football team already. But if you have a guy like him that as the playbook expands a little bit as we get deeper into the season, that's just going to make Batavia that much tougher to deal with.
Stay in the Duquesne Conference because Glenbard North 0-9 last year. They won tonight, beating Willowbrook. They're now 2-0. That's a playoff point that helps everybody in that conference. St. Charles North, they were winning big. Don't have a final of that in front of me here. But also Geneva winner tonight, 41-7 over Lamont. St. Charles East goes down in that one. So that conference, it's starting to shape up kind of the way you thought. But the bottom of the conference is kind of tricky. And Wheaton-Warrenville South went down to Lions tonight. So the Lions got to win against the Wheaton South Tigers.
Yeah, that was I think that was 30-22. I believe I saw.
That's correct.
Lions, obviously 2-0 right now, and Lions needs those wins. We were talking about that a little bit over the course of the week in regards to teams that just need those wins because their conferences are so deep. Same situation with Wheaton-Warrenville South. This was a game that they it wasn't a must win, but it was really important. Let's just be frankly honest about it. When you look to their conference schedule, St. Charles North, Geneva, Batavia, waiting down the line for them. And they have 1 loss in the book right now, and then everybody else in their conference. And it looks like what you perceive as potentially the bottom half of the conference. I mean, Wheaton North's 2-0. I mean, that's another problem. So it's just like there's not a week off in that league. So going into that conference fray at 1-1, you're going to have to work just that much harder to make yourself get into the playoff hunt.
Geneva heads to Wheaton South next week, and so that becomes fascinating. Probably the most fascinating game in the league. Although at the same time, Wheaton North goes to St. Charles North. So this every week is going to be something different. Switch back to the Southwest Conference, Southwest Prairie before we take a break. We mentioned Plainfield South and game-winning field goal. We have one to show you. Let's show you Plainfield South's amazing kicker who's had the best 2 weeks of his life. I think the PA announcer blew a lung there. Get that one out there. But how awesome is that? You could hear the atmosphere in that building.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great start for Plainfield South. I mean, last year they just didn't quite get anything going over the course of the season. They've already equaled their win total from last year. They were 2-7 last year. So, and now, I mean, granted, they've got a couple of difficult crossover games here with Plainfield North and Oswego East, but the division that they're in, it's wide open. I mean, they have put themselves in really good position right now by starting 2-0 because, I mean, there's a couple of teams in that division that have historically struggled. You would have to think Plainfield South is favored in that one, in those 2 games. And then basically all they got to do is get 1 more. I mean, and there's opportunity for them to do that. So, so a really good situation for them moving forward, a great start for them. And based on where they were last year to this year, they've obviously made some huge strides.
We got a slew of scores that are coming in. We got a Barrington result to tell you about in a second. We'll talk about that as well, and a whole lot more as we continue on. We'll take a quick timeout. This is Friday Night Drive, Week 2. Stay with us.
We're here to help you with your problems that result from an automobile accident or an injury on the job or the loss of a loved one. There's no reason you should go through this alone and guess that you're doing things right.
We deal with tragedies that affect families and individuals every day.
Come here and protect your interest. We've been doing this collectively for over 100 years. Let's put that experience to work for you.
Hey, football fans, listen up. I'm top there, and I drive a Hawk. I got it from my friends at Hawk Volkswagen. So drive what I drive. Drive a Hawk. Hawk Volkswagen on Jefferson Street in Joliet or online at hawkvw.com.
I like Reich.
I like Reich.
Since 2016, it's been my privilege to represent the people of the 63rd District. I want to continue representing you as an independent voice in Springfield.
I like Reich. We like Reich.
Do you ever wonder where the profits go when you shop at a big box store? Hi, this is Patty from Oliver's Corner Market. When you shop at Oliver's, you can rest assured that the profits stay local, supporting other local businesses and charities. Find us at the corner of Britton and Bradshaw in Dixon.
Welcome back. Week 2 of Friday Night Drive. Matt Rodewald, Steve Soucie with you as we take you to the top of the hour. Some of us are going to go a little bit longer, deep into the night. How long do you think you'll go here, Steve? Do you have a curfew set in mind for week 2 so you can save yourself the weeks going down the road?
I think last week I finished around 1:30, which
that's not bad.
Which was actually a little sooner than I thought it would be. So it'll be interesting. But like I said, that's usually in that range. 1:30, 2 o'clock is hopefully by the time I've chased down all the scores and tried to at least get a little bit of a snapshot on what we saw in the week. So yeah, this is definitely a chaotic time. But when you're trying to gather all this this information, I believe I saw somewhere that there's 230 games going on tonight across the state.
That's fine.
And I want to honestly, I want to know what happened in all of them. I'm impatient. Like I'm trying to figure that out right now, but I know that I got to wait a little bit to try to iron them out. But yeah, definitely.
Yeah, let's see if we can get you what you don't have. Let's start with some of the scores that we haven't talked about and see if that crosses off your list here. Let's start with Barrington, a 41-32 win over Hersey tonight. So if Hersey goes to 0-2 after being 9-0 the last couple of years, they've got some things to iron out a little bit on the defensive side of the football, and they know that. And so it'll be interesting to watch them the next few weeks. Meanwhile, Barrington just continues to put points on the board against whomever they're playing. Doesn't matter who you are.
Yeah. In fairness to Hersey, not exactly slouches that they've opened with
not
here.
At all.
So, I think once they get back into their conference schedule, they'll maybe find a little bit more of the groove that they're used to. But kudos to them for doing what they needed to do in that non-conference schedule. They'll gain more out of those losses than they would have, rolling up somebody, 52-0 or whatever that may have, been another option for them to play in those games. So yeah, that's definitely something that you benefit from. I thought I saw a comment earlier. Did Fenwick beat St. Ignatius? Do we have a final on that game?
I don't have that. I saw the comment, but we don't have it yet. So I want to make sure we get that just to be sure of that. In the meantime, Robbie Gold, congratulations. Your first win as a head football coach at the high school level. Rolling Meadows 34 over Conant, 34-12. Montini, 21-0 shutout winner over Hillcrest. Downers Grove North, they win the Battle of Downers 42-0. That one was not close. Glenbard South, 41-7 over East Aurora. So Glenbard South evens things up at 1-1. And just looking real quick to see if we have missed anything. Have not mentioned Hinsdale South, 34-9 over Riverside Brookfield, and St. Pat's a winner over Larkin, 39-0. The Larkin Royals still have not scored this season. The Glenbard North final, 19-7 over Willowbrook, one we mentioned before. So Minooka, Plainfield South, two teams in the Southwest Prairie, both of them winning on field goals. And so that's about as exciting as they get. We mentioned Lincoln Way West earlier tonight, 41-19 win over Andrew. Also, and there's that Fenwick score, 34-24. We're seeing, and we got to make sure that we double check it. Not that we don't believe you. We'd like to see that for sure as well. What else do we have here in terms of some of the scores? Rochester went down tonight to Cardinal Ritter 28-10. Simeon, a winner over Hope Academy 32-12. Wilmington is a wagon per usual, 41-15 over Sandwich. How good are the Wilmington Wildcats going to be this year?
That was 41-0 at halftime and well before halftime. So just kind of took their foot off the accelerator there and finished that one out. But they have a lot of pieces back from that state championship team a year ago. Definitely the big components, two of their running backs, Kyle Farrell, Ryan Kettman, that 1-2 punch out of the backfield is almost very impossible to try to stop, especially at the small school level. Those guys know where to run behind some experienced blockers in front of them. That's just a really, really good football team. It's going to be, I think the most interesting thing about Wilmington right now is, will they actually be defending their 2A title? Because they're very bubbly between 2 and 3A. So there's a possibility that they might not get that opportunity to defend it too. They might have to see if they can get a repeat, but this time in 3A. I think that's a distinct possibility and something that will definitely be something we have to watch over the course of the next few weeks.
Herscher went over to Bishop Mack to get a 20-13 win, and Forreston, they recovered nicely over Dakota with a 44-0 win over the Dakota Indians. Pena with a 26-14 win over Carlinville. Highland over Muhammad Seymour in a crazy one. Curious to see those highlights. 42-41, the final in that one. So anything downstate jumping out at you as you start to see some of the downstate scores come in?
This wasn't necessarily downstate, but I just wanted to mention it because I saw an interesting stat line on it. Nazareth beating Kenwood 42-15 tonight. Logan Malachuk, Nazareth's quarterback, completed 9 passes in the first half. 6 of those 9 passes were for touchdowns in the first half. So Nazareth obviously took care of Kenwood a little bit easier than St. Francis did last week, but a really, really impressive first half for Logan Malachuk. I don't even know how much he played in the second half, if at all, but 9 passes, 6 for touchdowns.
Mr. Steve Soucie, the Schaumburg Saxons are 2-0. They survive Elk Grove 22-21. Your thoughts on the Saxons getting to 2-0?
That we were talking about this a little bit last week in terms of, that conference now, it just becomes really, really difficult when you're starting to shake that down. The teams that were at the bottom last year are all of a sudden they're jumping up and having statement wins here. Schaumburg 2-0. If I'm not mistaken, I think they finished at the bottom of that league last year. So now they head in with a bucket of confidence and they're ready to go. So you have to look at that conference and start thinking, can all of these teams make the playoffs? Is that possible? I mean, if they all get off to good starts like this and they, break up the games a little bit in the results in that conference, it's something that could actually happen.
Schaumburg 2-7 last year, wins over Antioch and Oak Grove, and they will have Niles North at home next week. They go to Skokie against Niles West week 4, and then Palatine awaits them to start conference play. Palatine, Conant, Barrington, Fremd, Hoffman, and that's how their slate runs. So there wins in there for Schaumburg to get themselves to the postseason. Do they need these next 2 just to make sure they at least get to 4? And so they're starting to feel the intensity of it. I'm sure this week of practice, there's going to be no celebrating. When you start doing the math, you go, we're here. How do we make sure we get to week 10 at this point?
Yeah, it becomes kind of complicated math when you get down to it, because it's like if you end up playing in one of those conferences that's pretty deep, you might feel like you have a chance to win every week. But if you get in a little bit of a slide, it might be tough to stop because every one of those weeks is going to bring a challenging opponent. Switching gears here a little bit, I know you gave them a shout out last week because they kind of broke a little bit of a string. You know who's 2-0 as well, Matt?
Am I Fenton Bison 2-0?
The Fenton Bison are 2-0 with a 43-8 win over Streamwood. So,
how about that?
Yeah, so there you go. So, yeah, like I said, we're lining up a bunch of teams right now that, like, if you would ask me before the season that they were 2-0, I would have maybe looked at you funny. But we've definitely got some stories of some underdogs kind of jumping up, and I love that about this. I mean, I love those stories because it's one of those things. After you do what I've been doing for as long as you get kind of caught in a rut with certain programs, you have an expectation for them. I always really enjoy that when a team kind of breaks that mold and says, nope, we're not what you think we are. And they kind of make it happen. And we've got 10, 15 of those teams so far this year that have really surprised.
I tell you what, that's the best part. You and I've been on the pairing show in years past. And I tell you what, the best part of that is that team that's breaking the playoff mode and hadn't been there in like a generation. And most of the schools like, what do? We don't know what to do. And that's the fun part. But when you look at Fenton's schedule, they've got Elmwood Park next week. That you can start to put that there. East Aurora's on their schedule too. West Chicago's on their schedule. There are wins to be had for Fenton to at least get to 4. And you never know how this thing goes for them. So I don't know how many 4-win teams are going to get into this thing. It's about stacking points. So, hey, kudos to my Fenton Bison. That's awesome that things are going well for them. 2-0 after going 0-9. They had a 10-game losing streak that they snapped last week. Rays Lake Central, the winner tonight, 14-13. So we're looking at what's going on up north in terms of that conference, starting to get wins in non-conference play as well.
Yeah, and that's what it comes down to right now. Is it like you're thinking, well, it's still early, but I guarantee there are going to be programs all over the place in week 7, week 8 this year that look back to something that happened in week 2, whether to them or to one of their opponents, and think, man, I wish that would have gone the other way. We'd be in a lot better situation if that would have. I mean, that's the most fascinating thing about this system, that all of this stuff matters. Like, you don't even realize the impact that like a win by someone 200 miles away from you impacts you somehow. And that's one of the things that I really love about the system, is that there's so much interplay between results at 8A and results at 1A, and that people that maybe don't understand the system that well don't know, but that's the fascinating thing to me.
Just trying to see what's going on downstate as well, because Normal Community and Normal West were playing each other tonight. I saw Bloomington and UI had quite the game, 41-38. That final just popped up, but curious to see what happened in the other one as well. How much fun is this week down in Normal when all 4 teams kind of cross over and play each other?
Well, it doesn't look like it was very fun for Normal West, because the last time I saw that score was 48-7. I don't know how it ended up being in final, but Normal Community was all over them tonight. So, but yeah, that's definitely it's one of those things that if you're not from that area, you don't understand the significance of those games. But definitely games that those school communities get keyed up for.
So we're watching the scores come in, and let's get back to what we started with our show with. Really, with the one big surprise was just that Oswego was just so dominant against Joliet Catholic. Can they? Obviously, the defense tell the story, but what do you know from an offensive perspective of what Oswego can do, and how they can compete in the Southwest Prairie Conference? Obviously, they're the favorite to win that league right now when you look at it on paper. But what do they need to do to make sure they're ready to get a deep run, the kind of runs that we're used to with them going deep into the 3rd and 4th week of the postseason at least?
Well, I think it's a little twofold. I don't necessarily think that they're all that explosive on offense, right? But the capabilities of the defense is helping the offense too. Shortening fields, getting them good field position, allowing them. And right now, honestly, it feels like, well, can they kick a field goal? Because that might be all they need. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. So, I think that right now they go into their crossover games. I think they'll be overwhelming favorites in those games. And then they get into divisional play where, like, I'm starting to think, just based on the first 2 weeks of the season, like, teams will be fortunate to get much of anything against them defensively. So the burden on the offense isn't very high. So, just do a little bit, and that's probably going to be good enough. Now, as far as beyond the regular season, I think that this is the kind of build of a team that can do some real damage in the playoffs, because, I mean, if you have a rock solid defense like that and just enough offense, that can be really, really productive in October and November.
Nicole, Mr. Big Winners, you see the scores on the screen. If you got scores, jump on in and pass them along. We're looking for a Belvedere North score. I didn't see that one. One that did just cross, Glenbrook South beat Lake Zurich tonight, 35-20. So Lake Zurich drops to 0-2. That's a big win for Glenbrook South, too, to try and turn the tide away from a 4-5 narrative from what they had a year ago. How important is that win for the Titans?
It definitely, when you look at where they're at, I think that they're in good shape. This just helps a lot because their division, they've done pretty well in it over the last couple of years, but there's so many teams in that conference right now that we're still trying to get a good read on. So just getting wins when you can get them, especially early in the season, obviously going to come in real handy for them, and getting into the field and figuring it out once they get there. But definitely a nice win for them. Lake Zurich now at 0-2, and that's pretty problematic. We've talked about it before, like earlier in the show. I mean, Warren's in their conference. A Libertyville team that we really like is in their conference. Stevenson, I think, is doing some better things.
Yep.
At 0-2 right now. I mean, that's with what they have going ahead. So, I mean, you don't want to just start throwing, dirt on them. But I'm just saying that's 0-2 is going to be tough to rebound from. It really is.
Yeah. And they get a get well game next week as they go to Waukegan, to be honest. Yep. And then they'll have. But this is the start. Tonight was the start of 4 straight on the road away from home. And so they go to Waukegan, then they go to Libertyville and Lake Forest before they come back home against Zion and the Mundelein. But then it's Warren and then Stevenson to wrap that up.
Let me interrupt you for a second. I just saw a score that I don't know if it's been verified, but it's really surprising to me. Has anyone seen a Lake Forest Carmel score tonight?
I've been trying to find it. I can't find it tonight.
I got a 24-14 Lake Forest win right here, which would be rather surprising to me.
I will keep looking just like you. I'm seeing highlights, plenty of it. They got in very late. And that's why, and I'm seeing 24-14. Yeah, and so if that's the case, that adds to that conference, but also makes it much tougher for the team we were just talking about with Lake Zurich. So again, I want to double check that one as well. But all signs pointing to a Lake Forest win over Mount Carmel tonight. So, over Carmel tonight. I always do that. And my understanding, this looked like this was a 24-7 lead heading into the fourth. So this wasn't even this close. So that's something to think about and keep in mind as we kind of evaluate that one for sure. That schedule, let's look at the Lake Forest schedule here as we go forward here, because next week, that Lake Forest Warren game looks a little more interesting if this score holds up, as Warren would have to go to Lake Forest. There's no track around that field. Those fans are right on top of you at Lake Forest. That's a fun atmosphere when that team is good.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And it looks like once again, this conference is pretty deep, but deep in a way that we maybe weren't expecting. So that's going to make for an interesting conference season here. We've got some teams that I think are obviously trying to step up here. Lake Forest, Libertyville are trying to take it up another level, and you've obviously got Warren to deal with at the top. So definitely it's going to be a neat race in that league, and that's a league that I think has kind of been defined pretty clearly in the past. So it's nice to see a little bit of chaos in there.
Hinsdale Central, 38-22 win over Bolingbrook, who drops to, I believe, 0-2. Is that correct?
Yes. Yep.
So where are we with the Bolingbrook program? Obviously, a lot of changes this past year.
Well, when you look at what happened, they made the coaching change, and then last year they weren't quite able to get things going the way that they wanted it to go. And then with Jonas Williams transferring to Lincoln Way East, that caused for another kind of change that they had to adapt to and have a difference with, and leaving their conference, not being in the Southwest Suburban, which for football doesn't even exist anymore, but going over to the Southwest Prairie, so playing some different opponents. But it's definitely it's a transitionary period for that program right now. Got beat pretty soundly by Homewood Flossmoor in the first week. A little bit more competitive tonight, but it's going to be interesting to see how they transition into the Southwest Prairie. I think there are some wins there for them, but they basically can't, they just can't let this snowball. They got to get some positive momentum going in the right direction.
That's a key playoff point that goes by way of Lions, York, and Glenbard West in terms of the postseason. So again, these are the games that we watch weeks 1 through 3, mostly 1 and 2, but for 1 through 3 in those non-conference games, how you distribute those playoff points, that's where the seeding really matters when you come into on Selection Saturday and the playoff pairing show on where these teams and how these matchups go. And so for Hinsdale Central to get back to 1-1, they host Lions next week, who got a win tonight over Wheaton Warrenville South. They get Morton after that. Then they go on the road to both York and Glenbard West. So Hinsdale Central here, they obviously need a win next week, but they put themselves in position. 2 competitive games. They got to win, but let's see what happens next week to see if they can be on that top tier or maybe even just in that second tier of where those teams are in the West Suburban Silver.
Yeah.
So as we look at scores that continue to come in, again, West Aurora, by the way, they got a final 45-20, I believe, over Glenbard East. So West Aurora winner in that one for sure. Seeing those scores come in. I believe I saw, if I'm not mistaken, Kankakee all over Washington tonight, 42-7. A bit of a surprise to see how much of a blowout that was. Good little rivalry in Central Illinois. St. Joe Ogden over Unity, 24-21. I'm sure that building was rocking tonight where that game was. That's a fun one.
I think that came down to a late field goal, too, because it was 21-21 in the fourth quarter the last time I had looked at the game.
I am confirming Lake Forest a 24-14 winner right now. And by the way, Bennett also a winner over Moline tonight, 49-29. So that is a point for the Catholic League, so to speak. Antioch, 33-20. So they get over Zion Benton. They get back in the win column for them. So what's standing out right now when you're looking at things that come in late? For sure. We talked about a lot of the early ones. What stands out from the late perspective?
Well, like we talked about just a few minutes ago, that Lake Forest win over that Carmel team was a pretty impressive win for me in a lot of ways. I really liked that Carmel team, and I thought that they were in good position to go 2-0 into the Catholic League schedule. Obviously, that didn't happen. So a big win in a lot of ways for them. Just kind of looking through some of these other things, a lot of the late scores coming in, kind of charting up the way that I expected them to. So not really a lot of surprises out there, at least from the scores that I've been able to ascertain so far.
And certainly was a last-second field goals. SJO getting that with 1.2 seconds left, just inside the right upright in that beautiful stadium that they have down there at SJO. And so they're now 2-0. So those are teams I like to see in 3A, 4A, and see where that goes. And it's fun to kind of watch that mid-level small school programs, if you know what I mean.
Well, for me, it's fun to see St. Joe Ogden getting back up into that upper echelon.
Yeah.
They've been a playoff team, maybe a first round out for the last couple of years. But I'm used to St. Joe Ogden being the team you're talking about, making a semifinal run, stuff like that, being the powerhouse of that Champaign small school area. And it's been a while since then that's been the case. Tolona's kind of owned that rivalry for quite a while now. So that's a pretty interesting setup that St. Joe Ogden was able to pull that win out.
I don't know if you saw this notable playoff point conversation. Glenbrook North losing tonight to Grant and the Bulldogs getting a win. That helps teams like Antioch and teams up north. Grays Lake Central got a late win tonight. So fascinating to see that one come in. I'm not sure how that one was supposed to go. And I imagine that was the result. That was a bit of a surprise. Frem now 2-0. They roll over Buffalo Grove. So Frem doing what they're supposed to do tonight after what we saw last week. How impressed have you been just with just the conversation around the Frem Vikings right now?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it a little bit last week, the big win over Lake Zurich. Now it looks like it's a little bit more sustainable. It only takes one more win for them to equal the win total that they put together over the last 2 years, 3-6 in back-to-back seasons for them. So definitely in the right place, but now you start to look at that conference, and we've already talked about Schaumburg a little bit. We've talked about the teams that are at the top of that conference. I think it's going to be absolute mayhem in that league from week 5 to week 9 because all these teams are just going to be butting heads with one another. I'd be really surprised right now looking at it on paper and what's happened so far if anybody gets through that conference unscathed in conference play because I think there's just a lot of depth there, and it's going to be difficult for anyone to run the table in league play just because of the fact that 1 through 6, it looks like all of those teams can play.
Final few minutes here as we wrap up, or at least the early portion of it. Stevenson a winner 42-7 over Taft. That one coming across here as well. Just some of the scores we mentioned early on. Leiden a win over Niles North. That's interesting to note because of Schaumburg being 2-0. Niles North struggling a bit, so you would think that they'd be in good shape to get that win. We talked about Seneca and Lisle earlier. Seneca, the Irish, 40-0 winner over Lisle. Addison Trail, the winner tonight, shutout fashion over North Chicago. Prairie Ridge all over Crystal Lake South. Wheaton North and Lockport. We talked about that early, 22-21. Wheaton North gets St. Charles North next week, and St. Charles North, I don't know if we have the final of that one. But they were winning and kind of trying to stay ahead of Crete Monier as that was turning into a track meet in the second half. Pretty much St. Charles North was in control of that one. And let's see here, just up and down here. We had a lot of game-winning field goals tonight. Naperville Central won on a game-winning field goal. We had Plainfield South winning on a game-winning field goal. Minooka a winner on a game-winning field goal. And the Central Rockets, they rallied very late to get a field goal to beat Dundee Crown. Both teams up there in the Fox Valley at 1-1. So you're seeing them come in. A lot of things pretty much playing to chalk a little bit. I mean, there's some surprises, but no overwhelming surprises. I guess when it comes down to it, it's what we started with, Oswego, just by how dominant they were tonight on the defensive side of the football.
Yeah, I think that's one of the key takeaways from this evening. Also looking back to that Marist Brother Rice game, I think that's one of those that when we're looking back at it, I don't think either one of them were going to get through the season unscathed or anything. But when we're looking at playoff pairings night, we're looking ahead. The fact that Marist got that win is going to help them immensely. Just in specter of like they probably won't be a 5-4 team now. They're probably looking more towards a 6-3, 7-2 team because they got that win, and that's going to make a world of difference in where they were placed in the bracket. So that's a huge win for them. Brother Rice will be able to, I'm sure they'll be able to bounce back, but they're also a member of the Blue, and the Blue. I mean, every week the Blue is going to bring the hammer. So I mean, a loss means a little bit more in the non-conference schedule to a team in the Blue.
So, and a playoff point alert again, Lake Park, 31-0 over Bartlett. So the Duquesne, the rich get richer. And so you add to that, and they're now 2-0 going into a very tough conference here. Good luck with that. But, it's for them feeling good. They got 2 blowout wins really in their non-conference slate. I believe they had Conant last week, Bartlett this week. So, for Lake Park and the Lancers, they might be in the wrong conference, but, if you put them in a different conference, I would say they're going to be a really good football team this year, and it's nice to see them kind of turn things around a little bit.
Well, collectively, if St. Charles North did indeed win that game, the league is 13-3 right now. So that's kind of showing you where you're at, and 2 of those losses are owned by St. Charles East. So you take St. Charles East out of the equation, and the league is 13-1. So, I mean, it's like that's a pretty impressive start for the Duquesne Conference.
And you start to worry about St. Charles East at this point, starting 0-2, and you see where that goes, and you wonder. And they've been trying to turn things around, and it's starting to go. Please make sure there's 1 or 2 in there for the taking at some point. So, yeah, that kind of sums up what that league is at. Which is the strongest league in the state? We talked a lot about the Duquesne Conference. I live in the area, so I have a lot of knowledge about it. But aside from them, which from what you've seen the first 2 weeks, just quick hot take, which is that conference you're like, you know what? There's a lot of talent there that maybe we didn't realize.
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily that. I mean, with this, you always talk about the CCL when this conversation comes up. Are you going to count them as a collective? Or are you going to break them down to colors? Like whatever that is. I mean, because the Blue, in my mind, even though it's just 4 teams, is your gold standard. But like beyond that, when you're talking about other leagues, it's like the Duquesne belongs in that conversation just based on what they've done. And then you get into some of the other leagues, and it's still I think we're still in that feeling out pattern of discussing where the cream's going to rise, because some of these teams are off to fast starts, but is it sustainable? Maybe the competition that they're playing, we don't know quite that much about them just yet. So ranking those right now, I'm not sure if I'm comfortable doing that, but there are some leagues that are obviously off to some great starts.
Did a nice job sidestepping that. I really liked how you did that. It's like you're like a pro when it comes down to it. I'll leave you with this here as we wrap things up here. As we get deeper and deeper, those teams that are on the bubble become even more fascinating. You mentioned Wilmington earlier. I look at it, Canelan as one of those. Last year we stared at Prairie Ridge's line all year long.
Yep.
So where you slide is really fascinating, which means you got to win and keep winning, and maybe, just maybe, they slide you in the right class based on how things go with some of those teams that don't do what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, it's going to be a wild year in that sense, and I talked a little bit about it during this week about some of the changes that lead to why this is happening, and it's going to be the weirdest thing to me about this whole situation is it's like people are going to get familiar with what the enrollment of Chicago Public League schools are, because we might get to some toss-up games where a 6A public league school is playing a 3A public league school, and then whoever wins that is getting in, whoever isn't is getting out. So if you pull out the big school, then the line shifts. If you move in the small school, what does it do to those teams on the bubble? And that's an element that we really haven't dealt with that much before, but I definitely think it's something that's going to come into play this year. And I think it's going to be the same teams on the bubble, but I think there's a possibility that we could see some teams slide or get pushed just entirely based on things that you would not even think as being a factor in how that happened.
This is where I leave you by I say I'm going to have to go look at those Week 9 Saturday schedules, because that's where the public league makes this whole thing a mess for all of us, really. So just get ready now. I'm telling you this 7 weeks in advance. All right, that does it for me tonight. Thank you so much. Appreciate to everybody on the other side keeping us updated with everything. John, Neil, and everybody else, and to all our reporters that are out in the field. We didn't get to everybody tonight, but we will over the course of time. So we appreciate all the hard work. Make sure you're following all of our reporters on social media. If you're not following them, you should be, especially on a Friday night, so that when you're out at the games, you can see what's happening everywhere. And then when you're sitting in the passenger seat when somebody drives home, you can pop on the stream and watch us for the rest of the night. So for Steve Soucie, he's going to stay up with you tonight. I'm Matt Rodewald saying thank you so much. This has been week 2 of Friday Night Drive. See you next week.
Connor Decker is
We're here to help you with your problems that result from an automobile accident or an injury on the job or the loss of a loved one. There's no reason you should go through this alone and guess that you're doing things right.
We deal with tragedies that affect families and individuals every day.
Come here and protect your interests. We've been doing this collectively for over 100 years. Let's put that experience to work for you.
Hey, football fans, listen up. I'm top there, and I drive a Hawk. I got it from my friends at Hawk Volkswagen. So drive what I drive. Drive a Hawk. Hawk Volkswagen on Jefferson Street in Joliet or online at hawkvw.com.
I like Reich.
I like Reich.
Since 2016, it's been my privilege to represent the people of the 63rd District. I want to continue representing you as an independent voice in Springfield.
I like Reich. We like Reich.
Do you ever wonder where the profits go when you shop at a big box store? Hi, this is Patty from Oliver's Corner Market. When you shop at Oliver's, you can rest assured that the profits stay local, supporting other local businesses and charities. Find us at the corner of Britton and Bradshaw in Dixon.
Hi, guys. We're back for a little breakdown of the scores from tonight. Basically, just starting to sift through some of the scores that I really didn't get a chance to look at during the live broadcast, but I'll start funneling what I'm looking for as soon as I get the chance. I've already got a fair amount of them that I've been able to track down so far, so we're in good shape in that respect. But still looking through some of these scores, especially from Central and Southern Illinois, that I really didn't get a chance to catch in on. But definitely an interesting night. A lot of close scores. We're looking at a lot of, like we were mentioning during the broadcast, a lot of games that were decided by apparently late in the game field goals or last-second field goals. Definitely interesting when trying to break all of this down. Right now, I'm just starting like we always do at the top of the conference alphabetically, looking through some Apollo scores that I've already got in. This process takes a little bit longer during the non-conference season because I have everything grouped in conferences. So every game requires 2 inputs, and they're not exactly the fastest to go in. So I'll let you know which ones I'm looking for. You guys are always a big help in regards to scores that I'm trying to track down. But so far, I'm not missing anything that I'm looking for. That will obviously change. So an interesting night. The one thing that I'm noticing so far, just on the scores that I do have in, is we've got some interesting teams at 2-0 that we're not used to having there. Also got some interesting teams at 0-2 that we're not used to having there. First of all, I just noticed one in the first score grouping that I was looking at. Mount Carmel, who made the 3A state championship last year, lost to Effingham 26-22. That drops Mount Carmel to 0-2 on the season, which is really out of character for that program. So it'll be interesting to see if they can bounce back. So another surprising loss that I just took in, Mount Zion, who has obviously some talented receiving / tight end threats, lost tonight to Triad 17-10. So that's a loss that I wasn't expecting. I kind of expected Mount Zion to win that game. So an interesting start there. So Taylorville 34-0 over Robinson. So I've got all of those done now. So now I'm switching over to the Big Northern Conference. I know that Byron won big tonight. So that's pushes them to 2-0. Rockford Lutheran drops down to 1-1. So all right. So I already got one here that I do not appear to have. North Boone and Genoa Kingston is the score that I'm looking for. I have a couple places that I still haven't gone quite yet to look for them, but I will see if I can catch up with that one through various sources here. So, all right, so then Dixon with a 35-0 win over Oregon. That moves Dixon to 2-0. So then we're looking at that right now, trying to figure those out. Also looking for Stillman Valley and Rock Falls. So right now, missing a few in the Big Northern. So we'll write those down for future reference. Move on to the next conference. All right. Okay. So let's move on to the Big 12. Actually, hold on a second here. I'm going to change my screen. Thank you. Thanks, guys. I just changed my screen. I just saw your comments. I actually hadn't seen those. So I can go up and correct those Big Northern scores. I appreciate it. So now we're back on point again. All the scores are in through the first two conferences. Thank you for your help. All right, moving on to the Big 12. I saw a few of them earlier. Peoria, 46-40 over Peoria Notre Dame. That must have got tight later on. Okay. I know that Normal Community was beating Normal West badly, but I never saw a final. So if anybody has that out there, that was 48-7. I just found it. So. And then we've got Champaign Centennial, 39-15 over Central. Danville, 51-6 over Urbana. And Richwoods, 15-6 over Manual. Okay. So, Bloomington wins 41-38 over Normal U-High. So that leaves three teams in the Big 12 without a loss. Normal Community, Peoria, and now Bloomington. So a good start for Bloomington out of the gate. They've been a borderline playoff team the last couple years. So nice start for them. I'm going to go down here and put the U-High score in where it belongs before I forget to do that. Okay, so now moving on to the Cahokia, Illinois division. Let's see what we got. All right, so Trenton Westland loses 36-0 to Deer Creek Mackinac. Okay. And then Roxana, 57-26 over Red Bud. Looks like I'm going to have a problem with a couple of scores out of Missouri right now. I don't have either of those. So I'm looking for Sparta and Confluence Prep and Dupo and Principia, or however the heck you say that. Both of those games are against Missouri-based teams. I have one place that I can go to check those. after I put this Chester 56-6 win over Pinckneyville in. Chester off to a really nice start, 2-0. Comfortable victories for them. Okay. So I'm going to check a couple of places for those Missouri scores before I move ahead. All right. So now I'm going to check one more place before I give up on that. Thanks, weather. Appreciate it. So I have the Confluence game, courtesy of weather. Now I'm looking for the Dupo game, so I'm not even sure that game was tonight, to be completely honest with you. It has a weird tag on it, so I think that might be a 1 o'clock game tomorrow. But I'm going to check one place before I give up on it. Yeah, I think that game's tomorrow. Yep, that game's tomorrow. Okay, so now we can move to the other Cahokia division, the Mississippi division. Okay. All right. So then Benton beats Salem 56-0. Benton must be pretty good. Beat Carterville in the first week of the season. Now they're handling Salem rather easily, so that's a team to keep an eye on in 3A from the southern portion of the state. It's like they're pretty strong. So Freeburg beat Jersey pretty badly. That's a little bit out of what I expected out of that game. So okay. Roxana beat Redbud. I already had that sport in there. Okay. So now we're going to start looking for the ones we're missing. Looking for the Milk Bowl, Breeze Mater Day and Breeze Central. Haven't been able to find that one yet. There it is, Breeze Central with a comfortable win. 49-13. So Breeze Mater Day down to 0-2, which is a little surprising. My cat apparently has opinions about that. Waterloo, 31-14 over Columbia. That's going to lead me to reassess my grade of Columbia. I think I may have overweighted that win over Mater Dei in week 1, so I have to reanalyze them. They got beat 31-14. Okay, so Civic Memorial beats Wood River 21-8. Okay, so that is the Cahokia. Now we go into the Catholic League. So as we were talking about during the broadcast, Marist with an overtime victory over Brother Rice tonight. That was 34-27. So that takes care of 2 scores there. And then Fenwick beat St. Ignatius tonight. I do know that. I don't remember the score. Thanks, Weather. Okay. So that's a big win for Fenwick, which is a team that I looked at their upcoming schedule and I thought honestly was extremely pivotal for them moving forward. So actually, in the grand scheme of things, this is not the best of nights for the Catholic League. A couple of losses that I don't think they were expecting to have. That Carmel one is the one that really surprises me tonight. That's a good win for Lake Forest as they improved to 2-0 on the season. That must be a Lake Forest team that I've underrated a little bit. So Nazareth beat Kenwood tonight. I do know that. That was 42-15. The other games, that's a Saturday game. That's a Saturday game. I'm going to put the Kenwood final down in here. Overall, I think while I'm figuring out where that team is at, I think it was a pretty even-handed night in terms of what I kind of expected from things statewide. There have been a few surprises as I go through these early scores, things I didn't expect. But for the most part, a lot of these toss-up games have gone the way that I thought that they would. So it's a good indicator that I'm getting a pretty good read through 2 weeks on what a lot of these teams are. So Providence beats Lincoln Way Central. That was bordering on a must-win for Providence tonight after they lost that season opener to Wheaton North. And they've just got a brutal conference schedule waiting for them on the other side of this week. So a really big win for them in the grand scheme of things. So now I know that DePaul beat Marion Central Catholic. Okay. That was 35-7 in favor of DePaul. Okay. So, all right. Academy. Just going to get this one while I'm down here. Wheaton Academy wins 28-17 over St. Charles East, that is. Where are you? Okay. So, let's go back up, finish out the rest of the Catholic League here. I saw St. Patrick's score 39-0. There it is. All right. Okay. I know that Marmion won tonight. That was 56-0 over Noble Academy. De La Salle won tonight. 64-0 over Foreman. Okay. St. Lawrence. I don't remember what happened there. I think they beat Evanston. Yep, they did comfortably. 42-7 for St. Lawrence. That's a good win for them. Puts them at 2-0. Okay, Montini beats Hillcrest 21-0. Moves them to 2-0. Okay. All right, so as of right now, there are 10 2-0 teams in the Chicago Catholic League with the opportunity for 3 more teams to be added to that list. So 10 of the 24 are already 2-0. We could end up with 13 of the 24 being 2-0. And Mount Carmel, Loyola are at none of the blue teams are 2-0. So that's definitely an interesting little factoid to pull out of tonight. So, like I said, 10 of the teams are already through to 2-0. 3 more can add to that tomorrow. And then the supposed superpower of that division is not there. All right. Michael, my guy, just tearing through those. Got all those scores in there for me. Glenwood, 35-31. Eisenhower. You're going to make my job real easy here tonight, aren't you? You're the man. Jacksonville, 65-12 over Eisenhower. Springfield, 21-7 over MacArthur. Okay. Southeast is tomorrow. Okay, so we've got East Peoria's 2-0. My goodness. And does it easily. I would have to look this up. I do not know the last time East Peoria was 2-0 in the season. So add them to the list of surprising 2-0s that we have so far. Convincing win over Lanphier tonight, so 2-0 with a bullet. Tough conference in front of them in Middle Illini, but like I said, it's nice for them to be 2-0 out of the gate. So we've got Lanphier loses 0-44. And then Sacred Heart Griffin, where are we at on that one? 43-22. So that's a win for them. And Southeast and Lincoln is tomorrow. So we've got that conference finished. Still not missing any scores so far. So that's a nice bonus. Just tearing through these scores for me. Okay, now you're on the Central Sub and you've already got them there for me. So you got the Deerfield score already. Maine West and Maine West and Waukegan. I'm not seeing Maine West and Waukegan there. Any luck on that one? From the Central Suburban North. There, I just found it. Maine West and Waukegan. That's 40-14. Yeah, they did. I got it right here. Thanks, Michael. Okay. So back up to the Central Suburban North after I put the crossover in there. This is what takes a little while. Once we get into conference season, I will fly through these, but every score requires 2 moves in the non-con since I have them grouped by conference in my sheet. So this one it just takes a little while longer the first 2 weeks. Thanks so much for the score assistance. I think we're all collecting them from around the same places, but it's always awesome to have them all kind of broken down there for me before I get there. I appreciate it very much. Excellent. Thanks, Alex. Appreciate that. 2014, the last 2-0 for East Peoria. I would have guessed longer, to be completely honest with you. So it's been a while, Paul. That since Mantino's been 2-0, that's another one that is definitely spiking up this year. Okay. So just moving along here, getting some scores popped in from the Central Suburban still. Hills loses 31. Niles West over Morton, 31-17. South, 35, Lake 20. Glenbrook North loses to Grant, 28-34. Warren loses to Maine South, 18-35. New Trier beats Yorkville, 24-8. Okay. Now I'm moving into the Chicagoland Christian. Okay, so I have a feeling I'm not going to find the Aurora Christian Crane score, but yes, I did find it. There it is, 62-6. Aurora Christian with the win. Hope Academy is 0-2 out of the box, but they can kind of be forgiven. They've played a very difficult schedule to start the season. Simeon got them tonight. And they lost to Wilmington in week 1. So I am looking for that final score on Simeon and Hope Academy, however. I do know that Simeon won the game. I do not know. 3212. I just found it. Okay, right now I'm looking for St. Edward and Dwight. Never mind, I just found that one too. 51-8. In favor of Dwight. This one I'm not even sure if it got played. Walter Christian in Scott County, Kentucky. Really not sure if that one actually got played, but I do need to dig it out if it was. But for now, I'm just going to leave that on my list over here because I'm not sure that got played. I did have the other score here is Eureka and St. Bede. I had that one. So St. Bede loses that one 39-23. All right. So about 35% done on the score collection for this evening. Still, once again, takes a little bit longer in the non-conference season just because of the input way that I do this. And okay, now I'm moving into the public league. Not a lot of games tonight in the public league, but looking for Phillips and Rich Township. Okay. Yep, so still looking for Phillips and Rich Township from tonight. Lincoln Park over Comer, 48-0. Okay, let's keep going up here. Hyde Park is a Saturday. Phillips Friday. Noble Johnson. I need a Blue Island Eisenhower and Noble Johnson score as well. So right now my scores are Walter Christian, Scott County, Phillips, Rich Township, Blue Island Eisenhower, and Noble Johnson. I just saw that, Alex. Thank you. So 26-24 for Phillips over Rich Township. Okay. Back up to the top. I haven't seen a Morgan Park, Oak Park River Forest score either. Nope, just found it. My bad. 26-0 for Morgan Park. So right now, the two scores I'm looking for: Blue Island Eisenhower and Noble Johnson, Walther Christian, and Scott County, Kentucky. Okay. So now, moving through more public league scores. Simeon won that game 32-12. I thought I saw the Stevenson Taft score. Yep, that was 42-7. Perspectives lost 0.5. Okay. That's not funny, Weather. I'm not going to be worrying about 8-man scores. There's too many. I got too many 11-man scores to worry about. I can't do it. Okay. So then we've got, still moving through these public league scores. These are the trickiest ones to find usually. All right, so Catalyst, Maria, and Westmont is one that I'm seeking right now. Okay. Westmont is a winner. Okay. And now I'm looking for Noble Hansberry and TF North. So then it's Phoenix 3017. So TF North and Noble Hansberry. TF North wins 34-0. Okay. I think that's all the public league. Let me check it one more time. Still missing Noble Johnson and Blue Island Eisenhower from the public league, but other than that, Ridgewood beats Clemente 48-16. Woodstock North beats Prosser 63-7. All right, so we're out of the public league. And now we're into the Duquesne. So, Lake Park beats Bartlett 31-0. Geneva beats Lamont 41-7. Lombard North beats Willowbrook 19-7. St. Charles North beats Creek 50-26. Wheaton Warrensville loses to Lyme. South 22-30. Okay, on to the Fox Valley. Okay. So Jacobs beats Hampshire. That's closer than I thought. 28-21. Central beats Dundee Crown 24-22. Cary Grove all over Crystal Lake Central 45-14. Cary Grove 14-45. Prairie Ridge 49-0. All right, moving along pretty good, guys. About halfway home, actually. Okay, now we get into the heart of Illinois, or the heart of Central Illinois large. I'm going to keep calling it the heart of Illinois. It's going to take me a while to get that changed down in my head. Hey, Leroy, big win over Tri-Valley tonight. That's impressive. Clinton over Alton Marquette. Ridgeview over Bureau Valley. El Paso and Casey. El Paso loses to Casey. Shelbyville and Marshall. Shelbyville wins that one. Fisher and Tuscola. Tomorrow? No. Where is it? Oh, you got to do the other division. Tuscola beats Fisher 13-37. Let's see, Gibson City with a narrow win over Warrensburg-Latham. Macon Meridian loses to Hayworth 12-27. 27-12. All right, guys, just a reminder, looking for Blue Island Eisenhower and Noble Johnson is the only one that I'm missing right now, statewide. About, like I said, almost halfway through the input. On to the Illini Prairie. And remember one of those scores, St. Joe Ogden over Tolono. Rare week one loss for them. Prairie Central easily over Pontiac, 37-7. Paxton over Newton, 42-7. And Monticello over IVC. Bloomington Central Catholic, 56-0 over Rantoul. And now, my man's already got me up here on the ice. Okay, Coal City over Canton, 53-6. I know that Herscher beat Bishop McNamara. I saw the first quarter of that one. Snuck over there and watched a quarter of that tonight. Good win for Herscher. Streeter loses to Ottawa, 35-7. Wilmington rolls 40-15. All right, so now I'm working my way through the independent schools. Alton Marquette loses. I know that Aurora Central Catholic lost. Althoff and Decatur St. Teresa. Althoff wins that one 61-0. Yikes. Althoff's really good again, I think. Collinsville and Centralia. Collinsville with a 21-19 win. And then Granite City and Marion. That was 51-0 Marion. And now we're moving on to the Interstate 8. Okay, Ottawa over Streeter. I do remember that from earlier. Morris gets to 2-0 with that 31-17 win over Joliet West. Keeneland a winner tonight over a good Wakanda team. They're 2-0. LaSalle Peru hung in there pretty nicely against Metamora, falling eventually 22-14. Rochelle, another big win, 36-8 over Morton. Sycamore. All right. So collectively, the Interstate 8 only has 2 losses. So they are 10-2 out of the box. Good start for that conference. Now I'm in the Kishwaukee River. Yeah, I didn't see that coming either, Weather. That's a nice win for Galena, that's for sure. Okay, Woodstock was a... Okay, now I'm looking for another out-of-state game. Woodstock and Rensselaer Central out of Indiana. So right now the 2 missing scores, Blue Island Eisenhower and Woodstock and Rensselaer Central. All right, so Kishwaukee River, just going to check that. Oh, just found the Woodstock score, so I don't need that one anymore. Woodstock a 29-7 winner. Mantino was a winner over Plano, so that goes there. Interstate 8 getting the best of the Kishwaukee in crossovers tonight. Sandwich a loser to Wilmington, Marengo a loser to Piatone, and Plano a loser to Mantino. So Johnsburg nipped by Mundelein, and Harvard goes to 2-0, 21-14. So it's just one undefeated team left in the. Woodstock North is also won tonight. So there's 2 teams left in the Kishwaukee that are undefeated. And one of them's Harvard, so a nice start for them. Snapped a long losing streak last week with a win, follows that up with another win tonight. So now I'm moving into the Lincoln Prairie. So checking here to see if still don't see Eisenhower and Noble Johnson anywhere. So Arcola loses to Sullivan. 14-48. All right, guys. Moving along quite nicely. Argenta loses to Nokomis. 49-0. Oakland Tri-County. 39-30 over Gordo. Boy, that hasn't happened in a while. That's a surprising win. Cumberland beats Sangamon Valley 14-7. All right. So well over halfway home. As I move to the Lincoln Prairie Large. It's Lewiston 34-13. River Valley lost 35-0 to Ridgeview. Illini West loses 42-12 to Elmwood. That Elmwood team's off to a nice start. Farmington 60-28 over Hamilton. Yeah, that's a good question, Weather. Tuscola is just kind of getting used to a new conference, I think, a little bit. But, yeah, they're certainly not where they've been over the last couple of years. All right, so now we'll move to the other side of the Lincoln Prairie. Abingdon 28-6 over South Fulton. I saw that Princeville beat Havana tonight, and a botched punt in the end zone led to a safety for Princeville, and that's the deciding points in that game. So that's a tough way to lose. Nice win for Rushville over Monmouth United. I thought that might be interesting. Rushville hung in there nicely with Jacksonville last week, and that is a huge disparity in enrollment. So I thought Rushville might do pretty well once they got down to the schools their size. Oh, Stark County with a win over Anawan Wethersfield tonight, 14-13. Nice win for Stark County. All right. So now we're in the Little Illini. Almost to the M conferences. Just turned midnight. What's going on? This is way too fast. Okay. Marshall lost 8-54. Newton lost. Paxton 42-7. Okay, and on to the Middle Illini now. Still one score I'm missing right now statewide. Blue Island, Eisenhower, and Noble Johnson. Okay, that Galesburg Limestone game is tomorrow, apparently. Canton lost 53-6. Dunlap beats Rock Island 41-31. Metamora 22-14 over LaSalle Peru. Morton lost 36-8 to Rochelle. Pekin loses 28-21 to Belleville East. Kankakee took care of Washington 42-7. All right. So now we're moving to the Mid-Suburban West. Or it's the East first, obviously. Palatine 14-9 over Prospect tonight. I'm not necessarily surprised that Palatine won that game. I am surprised that with both of those teams who have scored tons of points, only scored 23 points combined. That really surprises me. So, okay, so now I'm looking for Hoffman Estates and Wheeling. Not seeing that one anywhere. And I'm pretty confident that was tonight. Yeah, I really liked Philip Turner when I saw him in the scrimmage against Maine South. I thought it's only a sophomore. I really like that kid for Kankakee. Wheeling wins 42-7. Okay. Rolling Meadows, Robbie Gold getting a win tonight. First in the head coaching career of the former Bears kicker. Okay. From you got Buffalo Grove. I do know that. It's 9:45. 45-9. Schaumburg with a 22-21 win. Okay, so now we're moving on to Mississippi Valley. I'm very interested. For the first time in a while, I'm not the biggest Bears fan in the history of the world. I kind of outgrew that. But I am very interested to watch Caleb Williams on Sunday. I will be honest with you. I want to see what they can do. I like what they did in free agency. I like what they've done in the wide receiving core. I'm just interested to see that offense go when we're not in the specter of the preseason. But so let's get back to the Mississippi Valley. Oh, I got all those scores in. I don't need any of the Mississippi Valley scores. Interesting. North Suburban. Yeah, they sure have, Alex. It's really impressive. I remember not too long ago that program struggled to get 20 kids on a varsity sideline. That really was not that long ago. That the turnaround of that program has been extremely impressive. Okay, Lake Zurich lost tonight. Glenbrook South. Libertyville, big win over Richards, 48-15. Stevenson beats Taft, 42-7. Mundelein 2-0. That's another 2-0 team that I'm a little surprised to see. Zion Benton put some points on the board against Antioch. Okay, so now we're going to the Northern Illinois 10. Really moving along pretty well tonight, to be completely honest with you. Okay, so there's a lot of Saturday action in this conference, so don't need a lot of scores. Belvedere loses to Guilford. Looking for Jefferson and Hananiga out of the Mid-10. Let's see if I can find it. Nope, I don't see it there. Okay, so adding Rockford Jefferson and Hononegah to the list. And for some reason, Harlem and Auburn, all I'm getting is a third quarter score. So missing a few from that league. All right, I'm going to skip those for right now. Northern Lake County up next. Antioch 33-20 win. Grant won 34-28. Grayslake Central. Okay, looking for Grayslake Central and Bremen. So right now I'm at Blue Island Eisenhower, Noble Johnson, Rockford Jefferson, Hononegah, Harlem and Rockford Auburn, and Grayslake Central and Bremen are the missing games. Okay, I just found Grayslake Central. Okay, Hononegah, I'll get you that one right in there. Good. Hononegah, 48-8. Jefferson loses. Guilford wins 21-7. Ah, okay. That's why we have suspended. Did whatever you read on that Harlem game, did they say that they're not going to, was it suspended, or are they saying that that's the final score? Did you see anything in that report? Okay. So Grayslake North beats Elgin 35-24. Okay, postponed to tomorrow. I'll just leave it as non-final then. Okay. All right, moving along real good here. Over to the Northwest Upstate Illini now. After I put that Wakanda score in. Okay. So closing in on the S conferences, and that means we're getting close to the end. So we're really moving along quite nicely. Dupec 36-8 over Eastland. Galena beats Morrison 34-9. Lena Winslow beats Fulton 44-13. Forreston over Dakota 38-0. Okay, so now I seem to be seeking Stockton and Shullsburg, Wisconsin. as I move towards the Sangamo. Alrighty, thank you. So the Stockton game moved to Saturday. And now we're checking in on the Sangamo. New Berlin over Auburn. That's a nice win for the Pretzels. Williamsville over Porta. Pittsfield and Athens. Oh, wow. Pittsfield. Nice win for them. I'm going to have to reassess this whole conference right now. Some surprising results this week. Maroa beats Pleasant Plains comfortably. Okay. On to the Southern Illinois River Rivers. Okay, first of all, looks like I'm looking for Murfreesboro and Anna Jonesboro. Okay. So, with Murfreesboro and Anna Jonesboro getting added to the list, that leaves us Blue Island, Eisenhower, Noble Johnson, and Murfreesboro, Anna Jonesboro is the schools that I'm missing right now. Yes, it is next week that Williamsville plays Byron. That game's at Williamsville. What's my favorite conference in the state of Illinois? I don't know what my favorite conference is. I like a lot of conferences, Paul. I'm not going to let you put me on the spot like that. Okay. Looking for West Frankfort over Heron. 34-12. Okay, so I'm missing one score out of the Southern Illinois River to River. Now I'm going to check something because I have a scheduled game with Massac County, but I don't think they are going to play this. Yep, Massac County and Ballard Memorial, Kentucky is also missing. Okay. So, 3 scores missing now. Blue Island, Eisenhower, Noble Johnson. Murfreesboro, Anna Jonesboro, Massac County, Ballard Memorial. Now moving to the South Central. Probably about 50 more games that I think I have to put in here. So that's nothing for it being this early. Yeah, there's a chance it didn't get played, Alex. That seems like a game that might have got moved to Saturday. Okay, so now Pana beats Carlinville 26-14. Hillsboro loses to Greenville 41-7. Okay. Now we're on to the South 7. Got about 10 conferences to go. Some of these scores I already have had put in, so we'll move past those, some of them pretty quick. All right, seems that I'm looking for a Carbondale Mount Vernon score. Okay, Carbondale Mount Vernon is on the board now, is missing. So up to 4 games that I do not know the scores to. Blue Island, Eisenhower, Noble Johnson, Murfreesboro, Anna Jonesboro, Massac County, Ballard Memorial, and Carbondale Mount Vernon. Mount Vernon 31-20. Thank you. On to the South Suburban Blue. Hillcrest lost 21-0. Lamont lost 7-41. Oak Forest lost 12-43. Okay. All right. So, getting down to the nitty-gritty now. Loses Crete down to 0-2 after tonight's loss. Oakland Richards is 1-1. Oakland down to 0-2. Revis beats Thornton 21-0. I don't have Blue Island Eisenhower. So, Thornton loses 21-0. Kankakee beats Washington. Okay. Kankakee wins 42-7. And then we're down here. Neuqua Valley loses to Manuka 14-16. Naperville. Southwest Valley Blue. Central beats North 24-21. Okay. Mateo Valley. Lincoln Way East gets the forfeit win this week over the team from Florida. Bonzi wins 50-0 over Plainfield East. DeKalb loses on a last-second field goal to Plainfield South. Stag at 2-0 after a 28-13 win over Oak Lawn. Okay. Southwest Valley. Okay. We're looking for Plainfield Central and Mateo Valley. Haven't seemed to have found that anywhere. All right. Mateo Valley wins 31-6. Thank you for that. West beat Andrew 41-19. And Sandburg beats Oak Forest 43-12. Okay, on to the Southwestern. I did get the Rensselaer Central score. Thank you, Alex. Okay, Alton loses to Quincy 13-42. Belleville East beats Pekin. East St. Louis plays tomorrow. Edwardsville gets just edged out by Lawrence Central, Indiana. And then O'Fallon loses to Troy Buchanan. All right, on to the Southwest Prairie East. So, like I said, we're down to Massac County, Ballard Memorial, Murfreesboro, Anna Jonesboro, and Blue Island, Eisenhower, Noble, Johnson. Those are the three that I'm missing. Joliet West loses Marist tonight. Plainfield Central loses to Matea. Plainfield East loses to Wabanzi. Plainfield South, the big winner tonight. Last second field goal with that win over DeKalb. Romeoville fails in their quest to get to 2-0. And then I know that Bolingbrook lost. I can't remember the score. Okay. So about 70 schools left to check, but doing pretty well. Seneca wins 16-14. Sycamore 9-15. Plainfield North loses 13-35. Yorkville loses 8-24. Okay. Three Rivers. Princeton over Rockridge. Monmouth over Orion. 26. Erie over Spring Valley Hall. Mercer County over Sherrard. And okay. Kewanee 27, Riverdale 18. So done with the Three Rivers with the Saturday game tomorrow. Okay. So now to the Upstate 8. Upstate 8 East. Longwood Park loses 16-49. Fenton beats Streamwood 43-8. Lombard South 41. Aurora East 741. 45-20. Lombard East. Ridgewood 48-16. And then Riverside Brookfield 9-34. Okay, the other division in the Upstate 8. In the West, Larkin loses 39-0. Bartlett loses 31-0. Okay, so those are all. Got it. On the Vermilion Valley now. I did not get the Anna Jonesboro score. The missing scores: Blue Island, Eisenhower, Noble Johnson, Murfreesboro, Anna Jonesboro, Massac County, Ballard, Memorial. Okay. Just 6 more conferences to go. Watseka over Iroquois West. Salt Fork over Hoopston. Mark Henning, Nips Westville. Mentz beats Central and claims the Tomahawk, the finest traveling trophy in the land. That thing is magnificent. All right, so we got a couple scores I'm going to go fill in. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Weather. In the Rivers. So that would be 7:59 and then 59-7 for them. Massac loses to Ballard. All right. So now I'm in the West Suburban Gold. It appears right now that the only score that I do not have is a game that I'm getting less and less confident was played. Blue Island Eisenhower and Noble Johnson. Morton lost to Niles West, 17-31. Hinsdale South, 34-9 winner over Riverside Brookfield. That's a Saturday game. Willowbrook lost 7-19. Elmhurst York. York beats Plainfield North 35-13. Hinsdale Central beats Bolingbrook 38-22. Lions moves to 2-0, 30-22. So now I'm into the Western Big Six. 3 conferences to go, probably about 20 games total. Geneseo 20-6 over Clinton, Wisconsin. East Moline United 67-0 over Noble. The Galesburg game is now Saturday. Moline loses 29-49 to Bennett. Quincy over Alton to go to 2-0. Rock Island loses to Dunlap. They fall to 0-2. And now we're on to the Western Illinois Valley. The last conference of the night. 12 more games. Or 6 more games, excuse me. Getting a little loopy here at the end. Pleasant Hill with a win tonight over Beardstown. There's the big one of the bigger surprises in small school tonight. Calhoun with a 14-13 win over last year's Class 1A state champions, Camp Point Central. So that's an impressive win. Carrollton starting off well here. 20-6 win over Triopia. Brown County loses to West Central. Route beats North Green 61-6. And the last game of the night, Greenfield and Menden Unity. That's a Greenfield 36-12 win. And then I'll do a quick search here. Make sure I'm not missing any Fridays. It does not look like I am, other than the Phantom Blue Island Eisenhower game. The rest are unmarked Saturdays. That is correct. So, I still have a few more that I have to put in here that I missed when I went through the first time. But no big deal. Those games are still tagged, so occasionally I miss an input. I missed a few here. $42.20. Yep, I'm guessing that's probably right. Like I said, I got less and less convinced that game actually happened as the evening went along. I'll do a little bit of research before I completely give up on it. For some reason, I skipped the Black Diamond when I went through this the first time, so I'm missing a few. I might be missing a score there, too. Okay, so yep, I am missing a couple of scores from the Black Diamond Conference, so I need to dig those out. So the one score that I appear to be missing right now is El Dorado and Fairfield. Fairfield 28-20. Okay. And then go in there. Almost completely finished here. Okay. I think that's going to do it. All right, so got that one cancellation, the one phantom game. All right, so we have finished up the Friday. Let's take a couple of stat cuts here. There are currently, obviously this will change from Saturday, currently 142 teams in the state with 2-0 records. Strength of schedule leaders: Wheaton, Warrenville South, St. Charles East, Granite City, Conant, and DeKalb are your strength of schedule leaders at this time. Those numbers could change obviously by factoring in some Saturday games. So that, I think, is going to wrap us up for tonight. Like I said, I think we've got everything that we need. And I appreciate everyone's help tonight. And we'll check you out next week. Thanks a lot, guys.